On behalf of the School Innovation and Turnaround Committee, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Dr. Beebe?
Here.
Dr. Beebe is present. Dr. Bophy? Dr. Bophy is present. Ms. Bradford? Here. Ms. Bradford is present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Mr. Gio?
Present.
Mr. Gio is present. Ms. Harris is absent. Ms. Hill?
Present.
Ms. Hill is present. Dr. Moranti?
Present.
Dr. Moranti is present. Ms. Orange Jones? Ms. Orange Jones is not present. Mr. Romer? Mr. Romer is present. Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Smith is present. You have a quorum.
Oh, Ms. Jones is here. Okay, can we have our first item, please?
Your first item is on page 1, item 2.1, consideration of the extension and renewal of charter contracts for BESE authorized charter schools. The department recommendation is to approve.
Okay, we have a stack of cards on this. Can we get a motion to get the issue on the table, please? Ms. Bradford, second by Ms. Smith. Before we go to comment cards, yes, Mr. Superintendent.
Thank you. Members, I want to remind you of just a couple of things. Primarily that the way that extension and renewal works is as follows. First, there are statutes, but predominantly your regulations govern very specific decisions regarding schools to be extended and schools to be renewed. There are differences between your renewal the first time and your renewal the second time. There are differences in the length of the term of your renewal. All of these things are dictated by very stringent formulae that you have passed or that previous boards have passed and put into the regulations. So we are not bringing to you a set of judgment calls. We're bringing to you a set of determinations based on the regulations that you have put into the bulletin. Secondly, the recommendations are products of two things. One, of academic outcomes, and two, of a regular annual review that is done by a specific team at the Department of Education working with the Recovery School District that reviews charter schools across a number of arenas. Those are operational, academic, financial, and legal. And so a lot of the issues that we regularly touch on schools, English language learners, special education, are covered in this review process. Thus, any recommendation you see here today is a function of reviews that have been done of those schools as well as their academic outcomes. We put those outcomes into a formula that is generated by the bulletin that you've passed, and you have your recommendation. So the bulletins have guided the recommendation. If there are specific ones that you have questions about, we're certainly happy to answer them. I know there'll be comment as well, but it will be in light of, again, the regulations that are already on the books. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, before we go to questions from BESE members, I did get a couple of questions about two of the charter schools that are on here. For one's an extension and one's a renewal. Net Charter High School and Renew Alternative School. And I got some backup information on the second of those two, the Renew Alternative High School, showing some of the accomplishments that they have achieved with the what some people have described difficult student population that they choose to recruit. Children who have been highly or at a high rate suspended or expelled. You'll see that towards the top, and what some people would say is good results that they've achieved with those students, and that's this page that I passed out. You might want to take a look at that before we go on. With that in mind, though, are there any questions from BESE members about these recommendations?
Mr. Gorman,
Ms. Beebe?
the RAHS, is that Renew Accelerated High School West Bank?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my question is, why are you providing, or why is this information being provided today, and why was that not included in our packet?
The people from Renew called me and asked me if I had any questions, and I told them I would like to see some information about the description of the student body that they are serving, and what, if any, achievements they've achieved with that student body. They sent this to me, and when I got some questions this morning from BESE members about these kind of details, I said, well, let me make copies of what I was sent and pass them out. So,
But the question is then, on page 25, this is accurate information, and the SPS is, as it's indicated on this page, nothing has changed there.
not that I know of.
Okay. So we're still operating under this.
This is just extra information that was given to me that I thought would be helpful.
Well, you've explained.
Yes. Do we have any other questions from BESE members?
I'd like to hear comments, unless other board members care to speak at this time. I'd like to hear the concerns. I have some, but I would prefer to wait until others speak.
Okay. If there's no other ones from the BESE members, we'll go to the speakers. Can we have several speakers come down at once and take them in groups? Elizabeth Jeffers, Florentina Stagers, and James Finney.
Good afternoon. Regarding the extension of George Washington Carver Prep Academy, given a one-year extension, and that's conditional that they had a school performance grade of a D or above, and they had a D. However, only 8% of their students were proficient in math, and 21% of their students were proficient in ELA, and that is G.W. Carver Prep Academy. So I think that the BESE members should consider that 8% scored proficient in math. Some other issues I have is there was, I want you to Google or put in YouTube the following article: Joseph S. Clark High School students protest teacher firing. Parents complain about school's disciplinary policy. Shockwaves continue from Clark Carver High School student protest. Parents complain about school's disciplinary policy. Carver Senior High is like a penitentiary, parent says. So these are two of these schools, Clark and Carver. Carver has several different schools on its campus. The students' demands at Clark when they walked out after one of their only local teachers who was from the community, it was African American from New Orleans, when she was fired without notice from Clark. The students' demands, which was on WDSU, we do not want to be assimilated by changing our culture of Joseph S. Clark Black History, and also we do not want to be treated like prisoners. We want to see consistency in the teachers that are hired, and they support our culture. So I just think as y'all renew those charters, that you should, BESE members, consider that 8% passed and proficient at one of these schools in math.
And you are Elizabeth Jeffers?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We need to get that on the record.
Yes, Elizabeth K. Jeffers.
Thank you. Mr. Finney?
I'm James Finney, the proud parent of 3 graduates of McKinley High School, a public school administered by an elected local body. First, given that the department is recommending extensions, renewals, or whatever on schools with letter grades of D and F among them, clearly the department understands the weakness of the letter grade system as it pertains to challenging student bodies. So I just wanted to emphasize the point that the school letter grades do not reflect the quality of the school. My second point is that Recovery School District has the word recovery in its name, which is ironic because as long as the Recovery School District continues to be incompetent in turning schools around, they get to keep the schools. As soon as they successfully turn one around, they go out of existence. So that is a rather bizarre incentive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Stagers,
Yes,
please state your name and
Florentina Stagers, and I'm with Orleans Parish Place Matters. We're an organization that is focused on the social determinants of health, and in particular education as one of those social determinants. And then we're further focused on the school-to-prison pipeline and trying to interrupt policies that contribute to the school-to-prison pipeline. And my comment today is actually regarding the 2015 Charter Extension Recommendation Report in its relation to the Charter School Performance Compact. The text of the compact actually demonstrates that one of the key organizational performance indicators is discipline, and that there are 16 points available in this category. That's 4 points possible for each of those 4 categories, and those are that the school adheres to the BESE Model Master Discipline Plan, that suspensions and expulsions are conducted properly, that the school suspension rate is at or below the average suspension rate of charter schools, and then finally that the school's expulsion rate is at or below the average suspension rate of charter schools. So the first 2 of these performance categories are listed as critical indicators, but in the 2015 Charter Extension Recommendation Report, only the first 2 critical indicators are used in order to receive full credit. So we have concerns with that. This is particularly important to our organization in light of these schools' out-of-school suspension rates, according to the 2013-2014 data. For example, George W. Carver Collegiate Academy has the 3rd highest out-of-school suspension rate in the state. They suspend 62.9% of their students. George W. Preparatory Academy has the 6th highest, suspending 52.4% of its students. Joseph S. Clark is, their rate is 42.3%. The New Orleans Military Maritime Academy has a rate of suspending 39.4% of its students, and the net has a rate of 27.15. The state average is 8.9%. Because these numbers are notably high, and because we know that our school is a key contributor to the school-to-prison pipeline, it's just concerning that we're not using the performance indicators related to how these schools compare to an average. And I'll just wrap up that it's difficult to reconcile these suspension rates with those high performance scores, and it is a concern of ours.
okay, thank you. Can we get Kwame Smith, Elizabeth Ostberg, and Tracy Benny Joseph, please? Okay, Mr. Smith,
Okay.
can you state your name and who you represent, please?
Kwame Smith. I'm representing myself, a resident of New Orleans, Louisiana, New Orleans 7th Ward, in what we call the Bayou area. I had a chance to look at the documentation in support of the schools that you're looking to renew. As a citizen in New Orleans who've had a chance to observe firsthand what's going on with the schools, with the students, with the community, and the issue isn't so much that certain schools are doing better than others, are they improving, which ones are doing better with discipline and those that are doing better with paperwork and what scores are being improved. I believe the most important issue about New Orleans is about self-determination and also what we call, in this case, taxation without representation. Most of these charter schools, the problem with renewing most of these charter schools is the fact that their boards are not elected, that they are usurping the local elected school board's authority to decide what's supposed to happen, and when changes need to be made, the citizens of that area have somewhere they can go and be not only heard, but actually given a chance to see change happen. And if change doesn't happen, that citizen can, have a referendum on that elected official by saying that the next election you didn't do what you said you were going to do, so we're going to look for someone else who would do what we need them to do. That is not possible with those schools that are being renewed by these proceedings. Next problem is they will spread to other parts of the state that have local control of their schools, and their elected officials are held accountable. Yes, I will wrap it up, sir. The length of the terms of the renewals, I believe, are excessive because they should be just 1 year, if anything, while we're working on a transition of schools back to local control in New Orleans. The conversation has never been around the local controls. It's always about renewing and giving more options that are not democratic. So I do have other issues that I can speak to, and I will yield to everyone else.
Thank you. Ms. Osterberg?
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Osberg. I'm the principal at the Nat Charter High School. Our school serves all students who have either dropped out or been expelled from another school. So all of our students struggle with a variety of challenges, including homelessness, mental health issues, learning disabilities, having their own children to raise. I want to thank the board and the department for supporting our students, for understanding that we need to build high-quality alternative options for our students. Our students are capable, they're talented, young people, but they need very specifically designed supports instructionally, and designed supports, many of them, for behavior. Since we opened, more than 100 of our students have graduated. They are all currently working, enrolled in higher education, and are contributing to their community. And so we want to thank you for your support. We know that we have a lot of work to do, all of us. We have a lot more students in our city that need support, but we believe that with your continued support, we can continue to support our students as individuals, and that will have a positive contribution on our city as a whole.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Benny Joseph?
Yes, hi. My name is Tracy Bennett Joseph. I am the CEO of Crescent Leadership Academy in New Orleans, and we're a Type 5 charter. We service 7th through 12th grade students who have been expelled from other schools in the city. And I would like to also thank this board, along with RSD and the department, for supporting what we're doing with students. We service a diverse population of students, our homeless students, students with mental health issues, and we provide an array of services in order to meet the unique needs of our students. Last year, we graduated 28 students. All were first-time generational graduates of their family, and so we have seen that through the history. And so I would just like to say thank you for first approving the alternative accountability framework that we fall underneath, as well as your continued support as we continue to service students in the city of New Orleans, and this is our 4th year.
Okay. Mr. Nick Deere? Is not you, is it?
Hello, Nicholas Dean.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I was on the card with Ms. Joseph. I'm the school principal at Crescent Leadership Academy, and again, I'm echoing Ms. Joseph to say thank you for the support from the state level and RSD with what's going on in alternative education. Speaking to teacher shortages earlier and all that is part of what we're trying to work with and utilize down in New Orleans, and we're graduating lots of kids through rigor and high standards and high demands on staff, high demands on the students, and it's not a place where subpar or average is okay. Average is over, and we're working really hard in those schools. When we're transparent, we'd like to invite any of you to come out anytime and see what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we get Millie Harris and Sandra Ewell? Ms. Yule, can you, give us your name and who you represent?
My name is Sandra Yule, and I'm the president of Milneburg Association. Let me give you all just a small background about charter schools. And I'm speaking of, in particular, John McDonough High School, because it represents the most unsuccessful charter school that we have in New Orleans. First of all, my grandparents lived 1 block from John McDonough High School. When John McDonough High School was built, it was for all white persons. No African American could attend John McDonough High School. My grandparents, which were living in the 1800s, could not attend John McDonough High School, yet they lived 1 block from the school. I later on bought a home 1 block from John McDonough High School. Now, when the school became African American, the community rallied behind it. I was one of them. I landscaped the campus at John McDonough High School. I mentored the children. I had a garden club, which I brought the children to my garden, and they were able to see how tomatoes grew and apples and oranges. My point is, we were involved. Mr. John White came to John McDonough High School with many lies and misconceptions and promised that he would bring in a charter operator, which was Finn's, which was accused of stealing $50,000, and yet he overlooked that and he allowed him to take over John McDonough High School. And when they took over the school, I was thrown out of the school, and so was 90% of the community persons, parents. We were not allowed to even go inside the school. Do charter schools work? I say no. I think they need to be revised. I think the schools need to go back to the Orleans Parish School Board. I think RSD is doing a horrible job. And I am very disappointed in Mr. John White. I think you should be a lot more professional and accountable for your words and your promises. And to this point, you have not been. And neither have you, Miss Jones. You both have really failed the community. And our children continue to go to jail. They're killing 16 and 17 people at a time. So yes, I'm upset and I'm very passionate about this. And I appreciate you listening, but we've got to make some changes. And you cannot do it without the community. We are intelligent and we want community input, and we're not going to sit back and not let you teach our children without community input.
I need you to come to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, Ms. Harris.
Good afternoon. I'm Millie Harris, Executive Director of JCFA. We are a charter school operator in the Jefferson Parish community. We serve specifically overage students who are undercredited, who have dropped out of high school, who have been pushed out of high school, or who are in danger of dropping out. And I want to ask you all to please continue the services that the NET and Renew are providing students in New Orleans. Schools like ours need to exist across the state. My average student is an 18-year-old sophomore. They come to me as an 18-year-old sophomore. Without the support of the alternative framework, which you use to renew and extend contracts for alternative schools, our schools would not exist, because 50% of SPS is based on your cohort graduation rate. When over 50% of your students come to you as a third-year sophomore, you don't make that cohort graduation rate. However, my students receive TOPS Tech. 50% of my students graduate eligible for TOPS Tech or TOPS. All of my students dropped out of school. These schools like the NET and Renew are important, and I commend you for supporting them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Superintendent White.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do just want to correct a couple of figures just so we have the record straight. There were some statistics given about passage rates in the single digits on end-of-course tests. We looked up just a couple of these figures, and the percentages were 70% in English and 74% in math for the schools in question. Also, there were some suspension figures, some out-of-school suspension figures given, and we looked up for the two schools that were mentioned, which were Carver Collegiate and Carver Prep. They were 9% annually and 10%. I'd invite anybody who gave testimony to a contrary effect to please email me. You're certainly welcome to email me with the statistics that you have. These are what the state has and what shows on the state's website.
Okay, thank you. BESE members, we have questions. Ms. Hill?
First, I'd like to request if we can vote on each charter school separately. And then my next, my question for you, Superintendent White, I have several concerns on many of these charters that we are asking to renew. So for instance, renew, I think Ms. Harris, I think that was her name, I think she articulated it very well. When you take a population of students and there are 2 or 3 grade letters behind, and we put all these mandates, and they're doing the best that they can, and they're still trying to make the growth, but they still have a school performance score of an F. We see that in the traditional setting as well. Because in the traditional school setting, they have to accept all students from all backgrounds.
Absolutely.
And I think that we need to begin, for the future board, is to look at that. Because we as a board or the State Department will come in and say, hey, we're taking over this school because you're not performing well. But I think Ms. Harris articulated very well. Traditional public schools, they have to take all students. Not saying that charter schools do not, but it's a challenge for the charter sector, it's a challenge for the traditional sector as well.
Absolutely.
So that's my first one.
Well, let me respond to it quickly. That's why we have worked very hard to work in Washington to stop the federal government's policy of having the same accountability policy for every single school, including alternative schools. It's also why our board needs to come to some clarity as to what the distinction between an alternative school is and an alternative program, and to classify those appropriately in the accountability system. And I look forward to doing that work with the future board.
And then
for clarification, that work is ongoing?
That work is ongoing, but it needs to be ramped up.
So in the future, we might have additional information for these 3 types of alternative schools that would include other statistics and evaluation?
Well, I think what Ms. Hill is talking about is the letter grade system, and I agree that the letter grade system should treat alternative schools in ways that are different from traditional schools. However, that needs to come with a fair identification of what is an alternative school versus an alternative program, so that we don't, the minute we move toward a different system, just get 10,000 little alternative schools. And the federal government's approach to this, I think, has not been correct. That's why we're locked into a system that treats all schools as if they're the same. We'll have to look at the new federal law, and we'll have to discern whether or not we can make those changes. So I think, Mr. Garber, to your question, if Washington does its part, I think we will be able to do our part.
Very good. Okay. Ms. Hill?
Then my next question is Crescent Leadership Academy. As I was looking over the documents, in regards to the end-of-the-year course exam, 31% of the students passed end-of-the-year course exam, but according to the documentation that there was 100% graduation completion. So I'm just trying to understand where's the gap there, and how is that possible? Maybe you can elaborate on that.
The gap is that those are different measures. What's required to graduate is a fair on the end of course test. What this is reporting is achieving a good on the end of course test.
Okay. Ms. Beebe?
And certainly those who came to the table to speak, I thank you regardless of your view, but in the scope of our decisions, we can say when comparing traditional systems to charter schools, we have the same challenges in the sense that we have teacher shortages, and the comment made that, we're providing high quality options. Well, then that's subject for debate, because when I look at the information included in our board packet, and that's why I raised a question to one of the schools, a school performance score of 18.9, and I recognize it's an alternative setting, an alternative school, but at the same time, when you see in 4 years, it grew by 1/10 of a point, and then you have one at 25.7%, you know, and then I see the people from New Orleans, they come to the table, they speak very passionately, and, you know, I just believe that, you know, how can we say that we're improving the options for children, and we see this record? Now, I do realize, and I thank you, Ms. Hill, for your recommendation to take these separately, because we do see 1 or 2 schools that are making the grade, but in those situations where we're being asked to extend by 3 years, the one with I think it's the one with 18.9 SPS, you know, for a renewal of 3 years, and then we're asking to extend for a year. You know, if they're not making the grade, then I think we need to proceed to look for other alternatives.
Okay, do we have any other BESE members? Ms. Smith?
Thank you. I'm just trying to get some clarification on page 2. So let's start at the top. So Net Charter had a letter grade of F, and Crescent Leadership Academy was non-applicable. Is it non-applicable because of the time it's been in existence?
No, because the figures are not yet back for elementary and middle school letter grades, and that school has middle school kids in it.
Okay, and because I haven't been on the board that long, how many years have the Type 5 charters been in existence that have the letter grades on page 2?
These schools are coming up for renewal after 4 years and extensions after 3 years.
Okay, and then dropping down, okay, so I see the military maritime is A. Is that a letter grade A, a high school only?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then what's the time frame on J.S. Clark and Renew?
4 years. Those are all 4 years.
So, and my other question is, if New Accelerated has an F, are they able to receive, when it says minimal initial charter renewal, non-eligible for renewal if you have an F? Are we making an exception for them?
No, and I'm sorry, I should have given more clarification about that at the early. What you have are some schools here are up for renewal on the traditional BESE scale, and some of those you just named, military, Clark, and so on. There are 3 alternative schools here, however, too. Alternative schools, per a policy that you passed 2 years ago, are renewed on a different framework. We look at different indicators. And even though, as Ms. Hill points out, and I think she and I agree, that the letter grade system is not appropriate in treating all schools equally, when it comes to alternative schools, properly determined alternative schools. Even though your letter grade, therefore, may be an F, if you have been declared an alternative school on the alternative framework, you may be renewed. But I think the bigger problem is what Ms. Hill is mentioning, which is we're not really rewarding in the accountability system the way we need to for alternative school excellence. And if you look at the alternative schools, not just in Orleans Parish, but as Dr. Beebe points out, in every parish, they are rated an F. Now, unlike what Ms. Hill said, the state has not come in and taken them over for that reason. But I think in large part, we have to get away from the No Child Left Behind, one-size-fits-all treatment of all of these schools, provided that we appropriately classify alternative schools and alternative programs.
And for what it's worth, the chart that shows the years of renewal next to letter grades does have in parentheses non-alternative.
Yes.
Indicating that this is a chart for non-alternative schools.
Yes.
Okay. Any other BESE members?
Can we take each charter?
Ms. Hill?
Can we take each charter application, well, each charter renewal separately?
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
I second.
Do we have a second? Do we have any comments on that motion?
May I provide the board one piece of information?
Yes, sir.
As I said before, if in taking the schools individually, it means that you have a difference of opinion about one school to the next, what that means is that you're using your opinion to gauge whether the information means the school should be renewed. I am here to tell you I did not apply, nor did my team, any judgment to whether the school should be renewed. They are following the letter of the rules that you have written. That is the law. And so the results you see today are proposals for you need to make a decision, but they are entirely following your rules. So you may choose to disagree or not, but if you do disagree with one of these recommendations, you're not just disagreeing with that recommendation, you're disagreeing with the dictates of the law. Because there is a formula in the regulations, and that is what you would be disagreeing with.
Well, I would like to make a statement because I'm the one who put the motion out.
Yes, ma'am. Ms.
It's
Hill.
not about an opinion, it's about what's right. And when you look at the traditional setting, we look at the scholarship regulations and policies. If a school have a letter grade of an F or below a 50% with the school performance scores, you stop the enrollment of that scholarship school to receive scholarship students, or we'll come in and we'll take over the school in a traditional setting. So it's not about opinion, it's about a level playing field to ensuring that everyone have the same opportunity, the same access across the board.
I'm not making a statement of
I understand what you're saying
philosophy.
in regards to the law, but I want you to understand it's not about judgment or opinion, it's about what's right.
That may well be true. I'm just saying the law is the law, and if you vote against an application that the law dictates you vote for, you're voting against the law.
Well, that's fine.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to take these separately. Is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, that motion carries. Let's take them separately. First one would be G.W. Carver, Collegiate Academy. Can I get a motion to take the department's recommendation to approve the extension? Ms. Jones, we have a second. Ms. Bofi, do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item is W.G. Carver Preparatory Academy. Can we get a motion to extend as the department recommended? Ms. Jones? Ms. Bofi, second. Do we have any objections?
I object.
We have 2 objections as noted. We captured those. Okay, any other objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next one is Net Charter High School. Can we get a motion per the department's recommendation? Ms. Jones? Second, Ms. Bofi. Do we have any objections to the motion?
I object.
I object.
We have 3 objections. The staff has those noted. Ms. Smith? Okay. Any other objections? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item is Crescent Leadership Academy. Can we get a motion to the department's effect? Ms. Jones? Second, Ms. Bofi. Any objections?
I'll make a comment.
Yes, sir.
And I should have made it earlier, I don't want to belabor the point, but, you know, things like vouchers were mentioned in some of the testimony here today and the comments and how we treat voucher schools. And you're mixing up apples and oranges when you go across those lines on how we treat private schools that receive vouchers and how we treat public schools. I also would note, just for the record, that there are F schools in the traditional school system that the state has not taken over. So to say that we blanketly ignore that is not accurate, or that we apply a different standard is not accurate. These are schools that have been put into the RSD because of their failure. We've made an exception to alternative schools, and this board has expressed an interest in doing the same in all alternative schools if we can get permission to do so. So I just don't want that point to be lost as we make these votes. I appreciate the way you vote. You know, everyone's free to obviously vote the way they want to vote, but I don't want it to be lost on this board or the next board why this policy does exist. Because in fact, we do share some sentiment that we need to make sure we reward alternative schools that are doing a good job with the students that they do have. The current letter grade system does not do that as well as we wish. And just because there's an alternative school here listed, quote, as an F under that letter grade, does not mean there's not some success happening in that school. And we would say the same, and have said the same, for traditional public alternative schools. And the superintendent has brought up issues the next board needs to address, which is how do we define an alternative school versus an alternative program, and how do we define success? This board, under the schools that we have very specific role in, we run, these are our schools. We've made a determination of how to make a difference between what is a alternative and a non-alternative school. So again, I'm not trying to stop anybody from the way they vote. I don't mind that we take them one at a time, but I don't want it to be lost on why this policy exists, how we got there, and where we hope to get.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, then motion carries. Next item is New Orleans Military Maritime Academy. Do we have a motion to the department's recommendation? Ms. Bradford? Ms. Jones, second. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, Joseph S. Clark High School. Can we get a motion to the department's recommendation? Ms. Bophy, second. Mr. Gio, do we have any objections to that motion?
Object.
Okay, department staff has captured those. Okay, any other objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item, Renew Accelerated High School. Can we get a motion to the department's recommendation? Ms. Bophy, second. Mr. Gio, do we have any objections to the motion?
Object.
Okay, we have 3 objections. You have those captured? Thank you. Okay, next item.
Your next item is on page 27, item 2.2, consideration of the 2016 Common Charter application and 2016 request for applications timeline for charter school authorizers. The department recommendation is to approve.
Can we get a recommendation? Ms. Bophy? Mr. Gio, second. Do we have any questions on this item from BESE members? Hearing none, we do have some speakers on that. Let's go to these. Donald Chopin and James Finney. Mr. Finney, are you, okay, thank you. Mr. Finney, can you give us your name and who you're representing?
My name is Donald Chopin. I'm active member of the VOTE, stand for Vote Rights of Ex-Offender. Hopefully I have the 5-minute limitation on my speech. I'm dealing with, which one are you on right now? You on what?
We're on 2.2.
Okay, 2.2.
This is the schedule for applications for charter schools.
Right. This is dealing with extending charter schools statewide.
No, this has to do with the schedule that they'll have to adhere to if they are applying for a charter.
Okay. This is important to me because whatever you're doing is an extension of the charter school system that started in New Orleans, Louisiana. To our dismay. You have opportunity right now to not make a mistake that a brave woman warned you about some months ago in this very chamber. She said, give the schools back to New Orleans. Because if you don't, you'll come take your schools and the rest of the state. And that's exactly what's happening. An example of how that's happening, why that's happening, is that there are a lot of interested people here who are very interested in what's going on. You have a handful of books, only a handful of books, to accommodate all these people. How can people possibly keep up with what you are saying without material, accurate information about what you are saying? I suggest because you have no intention to inform or to educate. What you're doing, what you plan to do, what you're doing in my city, and what you plan to do in this state by expanding this charter school system is dumb all of us down. What you're doing is making it possible to keep a right-to-work state. Slavery was a right to work. To work and not have a living wage is very similar to slavery. You can do that when people are uneducated and have no choice as to how they can make a living.
Mr. Chopin, we need you to come to a conclusion, please.
And my conclusion is, if you don't change your course and stop approving everything that's on your agenda, the chickens will come on the roost. It's going to bite all of you in the wrong place.
Thank you. Mr. Finney?
My name is James Finney. I'm representing at least some of the taxpayers of East Baton Rouge Parish with respect to what I'm about to say. I believe in representative democracy. Local charter authorizers, their very existence circumvents the democratic process. They redirect the revenue that comes from taxation, yet the taxpayers have no representation.
Mr. Finney, that's not what this item is about. Do you have any
Is it
comments
not
on the calendar for applying for charters?
The agenda item reads, consideration of the 2016 Common Charter application and the 2016 request for applications, timeline for charter school authorizers. Therefore, I believe my comments regarding charter school authorizers would be germane. If you'd allow me about another minute.
Please continue.
Thank you. It seems as though people in America fought a war a little over 200 years ago regarding taxation without representation. So for you to do anything that advances a system of taking control over the use of locally generated tax money away from duly elected local school boards, that would be a mistake. That would be a mistake that the voters will remember. I suspect at least one of you may someday intend to run for higher office. And like I said, voters will remember that people have chosen to thumb their noses at the democratic process. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Mr. Romer.
Should we then allow parents to choose, make a choice of their own school? I mean, if we're really for direct representation, if we really want to make sure we empower the parents, should we allow them to make a choice of where they want to go to school? No, I'm just asking the question.
Mr. Finney?
And you don't have to answer because we don't have to give and take, but you're welcome to answer.
I would be happy to answer. I believe that no family, no parent, no child should be trapped in a particular school. The East Baton Rouge Parish school system runs, 50 or 60 elementary schools. My students were certainly never trapped in any particular school. If there was a situation that I didn't want to put my kids in, we did something else. There is no need for you to muddy the waters by letting a bunch of unqualified people supported by your sister's organization open whatever school and give them all the tax money that we voted for to support publicly controlled public education to the privately controlled organizations that have no accountability or transparency. So the answer to your question is no.
Is any parent forced to send their child to a charter school?
No, but every taxpayer is forced to fund it.
So that taxpayer who paid taxes chose to send their child to a different school. Are you opposed to that?
Rephrase your question, please.
A person who pays taxes, who has kids, and chooses to send their child to a charter school, are you opposed to allowing them to do that?
No, my opposition is in my being expected to fund it when there is no accountability or transparency, and I have no voice in who's on the board.
They are a taxpayer. They are a parent. Do they have a say-so about their tax dollar?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your answers. I do.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to hold off on that motion for impeachment for a little while until later on, possibly. Ms. Barrios.
But I will respond to Ms. Lee Barrios, retired teacher. So in responding to Mr. Romer, the problem with that hypothesis is that with your charters, parents can't choose. You claim that there's choice, and yet parents can't choose because of the limited number of seats and the selectivity. So
I agree.
I don't
We
really
should
know
have
what your question is. So yes, should every parent be able to choose their own school?
I agree. We should.
Is there,
open
let's
up
make
more.
it that
We
way,
should give
Mr.
more
Romer.
choices. No question about it. We should make sure we have more quality choices. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Right, quality is the operative word there. So my request, I just have a request really, and I've made the request, and the only real response I got back was from the person, I forgot his name, I'm sorry, in charge of the charter authorizer applications, is that in the interest of transparency, which you ran your campaign on, Mr. Garvey, and won, is that those applications be accessible without filing a public information request. And I went ahead and filed one for the Southern University and for the East Baton Rouge Parish, because there's really no way for this committee, which evidently also didn't get those applications, to go through those and see if they are following the charter authorizer law if they don't have those applications. The synopsis is not good enough. So I request that in the future you go ahead and put all these applications when they are submitted online so that the public can access those. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we don't have any other speakers on this. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have any objection from the members? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 41, item 2.3, consideration of type 2 and type 5 charter applications in response to the 2015 request for charter school applications. The department recommendation is to approve the type 2 and type 5 LDE determinations and to defer the type 2 applications for Red River Charter Academy and Greater Grace Charter Academy, Inc. The new exec rec and backup have been distributed.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to see the new amended recommendation? We have a motion, Mr. Gill, second by Ms. Moranti.
We didn't get it down.
Wait, here it is.
I'll give it.
Okay, while we're getting copies to all the members, Mr. Superintendent?
Thank you, members. I'm going to walk through the status of each of the 8 schools in front of you today. I will remind you that these are schools whose nonprofit boards applied to their local school board. They were given an independent review at the local school board. They were rejected, and so as has been the case, they come to this board for approval upon their choosing. We've reviewed a very large number of applications this year, so I want you to know first, these 8 schools reflect those that have gotten through a very lengthy process and have decided to sustain that process. There are 5 schools of the 8 that we are recommending today for approval. Each of them has also been recommended for approval by an independent organization, SchoolWorks, that works with us on an annual basis to perform the independent reviewer function. They are Apex, which is a grade 6 through 12 school slotted for North Baton Rouge. They are Athlos, slotted for Jefferson Parish, Laurel Oaks, East Baton Rouge Parish, Smothers Academy, Jefferson Parish, and Noble Mines of New Orleans. I will just say a couple of things about the overall history of some of these applications. First, Apex and Laurel Oaks are part of the Baton Rouge Achievement Zone effort. They come by way of Building Excellent Schools and have been funded for a year-long residency to develop outstanding charter proposals to serve low-income students in this parish. Smothers Academy is coming back to us for a second year. As you'll recall, last year, this board encouraged them. We had an excellent application. We saw some deficiencies, but Smothers came back, walked through the process once again, corrected those deficiencies, and we feel very positively about that application. Athlos operates in 2 other states. They have a strong record of success across our country and are prepared to do similarly strong work in our state's largest school system. Noble Mines is operated by a veteran educator who has sought both a Type 2 and a Type 5 school. We have been in dialogue with her also to make her aware that it may be true that there are not new school seats required in Orleans Parish, and thus that we will not be greenlighting the schools to start, if you approve it, until there is a need for kindergarten enrollment. Kingdom Builders has applied to this board before. They submitted an application that, based on its academic merits, was reviewed successfully. The independent reviewer also believed that it has a strong case to make, and the application is quite strong. The nonprofit board has chosen to continue with their application process, however, in spite of the fact that my team has informed them based on my decision, that I have serious concerns about the application beyond the scope of the academics and could not in good conscience recommend it for your approval. I'm happy to detail those things if there is comment and you would like further detail on those issues. Finally, there are 2 applications that have received successful reviews from the independent reviewer, but where I would like there to be further process and further clarification. These are not issues that you need to decide on today. I'm simply asking you to defer them to the next agenda. They are Red River, which is in a small rural parish, and I have concerns about the potential for tipping enrollment balances, gender and race-wise. Second is Greater Grace, where I do not have any of those concerns. This is on the west bank of St. James Parish in Vacherie, but I simply would like more time for community leadership dialogue so that we can come to some peace and an agreement about the application. However, I have no concerns, academic or otherwise, about the quality of the application. Before we go forward, I want to commend my staff for the work that they have done to vet high-quality candidates. You will note that you have urged us over the years to use this Type 2 process to surface innovative proposals, and in particular proposals from individuals who reside in those communities, oftentimes individuals of color. The overwhelming majority of these applications meet all of those descriptions, and I'm very proud of the work that's been done. This is one stage in the process, and I'm happy to answer questions about any one of these applications here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the BESE members? Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Superintendent White, for your explanation for each of these charter applications. But I would like to make a recommendation after listening to your report on each charter application that we defer 2 of the charters in Baton Rouge. And the reason why I'm asking that question, stating this, is because I think you expressed it just in your statement in regards to Greater Grace, more community leadership dialogue. And I would like to make a motion to defer 2 of the charter applications to the next BESE meeting, just as you would allow Greater Grace, because I would like to have more community leadership dialogue within the community with EBR, with the stakeholders, as well as with the school board members and the superintendent, just as you're going to grant that to Greater Grace Charter Academy and St. James Parish. And I'd like to add those 2 to defer to the next board meeting as well.
Ms. Hill, if I
and the
could
2
make
are
a
Apex South.
suggestion and a request. Could we get a motion to bifurcate and separate the Baton Rouge charters out, separate from the non-Baton Rouge parish charters, and handle them separately?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Mr. Guia. Any objections to that motion? Okay. Do we have, so we have a motion on the floor to, per the department's recommendation, to recommend the non-Baton Rouge charters. Do we have any objections to that motion? Hearing.
The motion is to what?
To approve, as the department recommends, the non-Baton Rouge charters.
So you're asking us to approve everything besides the Baton Rouge charters?
Correct.
Or you're asking us to approve what the
Department recommended on the non-Baton Rouge, per the department's recommendation.
Okay, well, I have a question, Chairman, if it's okay with you. What would be the difference if we just add the 2, because we're deferring Red River, if we can just, we are referring Red River Charter Academy, Greater Grace Charter Academy, why can't we just add Laurel Oak Foundation and Apex Southeast in the group? I don't understand what would be the issue.
Well, I guess we could do it probably a bunch of different ways, but the way we have the motion on the floor now, I think we'll achieve what you were looking to do, which was what I was trying to help you with.
Okay.
Okay. So, again, do we have any objections to the motion?
I'd like to note that I would rather vote to approve greater grace versus defer. So you just note that, I'll vote yea on the rest and note that I want to.
Okay, well, please note that in the minutes.
Wait, I'm gonna need clarification. You're saying
Anyone
that
that's
you
in Baton Rouge.
include, instead of deferring greater grace, that you're asking to approve it today?
And that's what I'm saying, I don't want to vote for all the recommendations as in front of us. The change was greater grace was moved from approval to deferral. I would vote to approve greater grace. But the other are defer next month, and they can pick it up next month.
You did recommend deferral. Okay. Okay, that will be noted in the minutes. Any objections other than that being noted? Okay, hearing none, that motion carries. Let's go to the Baton Rouge schools. Laurel Oaks Foundation, we have several comments, cards on Laurel. So we have a question?
I'm doing a process check. So you pulled all the schools other than the EBR school?
Yes.
So I have a question about Noble Minds. Can I ask it now? Is this the time? So I'm excited about Noble Minds. I think it's an important model and to Mr. Roma's earlier point, in New Orleans, I think part of what's necessary in our city is to have diverse options for our children. And so Noble Minds is providing a particular unique, diverse need of a school. I can't wait for it to start. I think it's going to be successful. We have an incredible school leader and team and board in place. Superintendent, you mentioned that there was some additional context approval with consideration. Can you explain more about that? Because I'm ready to have them
Well,
launch.
when you approve a school, you are authorizing the department to enter into a contract. We have operations concerns with respect to this, to entering into the contract. So I think as on its academic merits, as I've told Dr. Triplett, it is an outstanding proposal and an excellent concept. We recently, and you may have seen the headlines, have a 325-seat decline in kindergarten enrollment this year. That's a significant decline. That's 10% decline. It is neither fair to parents nor to other schools for us to add kindergarten seats to the system in a year when we have seen a 10% decline in kindergarten enrollment. And so I have told Dr. Triplett that unless we find a way for this school to not be additive to the number of seats, we cannot enter into a contract to start this year.
Do we know more about what's causing the decline in enrollment?
We're researching it, but we do not know. We just have
It
these
just
numbers.
just came to light fairly recently.
Yes.
Okay, and I guess before we move on to the Baton Rouge items, I'd like to also speak highly of the Smothers application and commend them for, would you say, stick-to-itiveness, or is it fortitude, or but it also bringing in Xavier University to help you with that item. So thank you very much. And yes, ma'am.
I definitely want to go back to what you just said and really say congratulations to those that are they're true athletes. They have jumped every hurdle that we have put in their place. So we are very, very proud of what they did as the end result. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, can we get Mike Tucker and Reverend Joe Cannelli to come down, please?
May I speak to the motion?
Yes, while they're coming down, if we could have
I want
Mr.
to
Superintendent.
just comment on the motion quickly. Ms. Hill drew an analogy in making her motion between the action that you just took on Greater Grace versus the action on East Baton Rouge, and I can tell you that those two circumstances have nothing to do with one another. Drawing a comparison I don't think is appropriate. The reason is that you'll recall that 9 months ago you last considered the Greater Grace application. Representative Ed Price was here as one of the lead advocates, and there were other elected officials here as well. They have since raised questions with me about the context in the community about which those schools are going forward. I want to resolve those issues, but those are original sponsors on a long-term process. The applicants for the two Baton Rouge schools have been out in the community for a year. They have literally been working in the community for a year. The idea that we should be deferring based on an analogy and some concerns that were drawn up over the last 24 hours, I think is a game of brinksmanship and jeopardizes kids and families that are actually out right now shopping for schools. So I would hate to see that happen just so that we can draw some sort of a political analogy to what is an outlier circumstance.
And I'd like to respond,
Michelle?
Chairman Garvey. To your point, Superintendent White, I know that the East Baton Rouge Parish delegation have reached out to you in regards to the 2 charter schools that are trying to open this fall. And the major concern is the community involvement, the community leadership dialogue, and I'm just asking for the same opportunity as Greater Grace, is to respect the delegation and those community leaders in that community to have the dialogue and to talk about ways where they can come together and work together. That's all I'm asking.
And what I'm saying
and I know that the EBR delegation have reached out to you because they reached out to me and they expressed that they have had that dialogue with you. And so that's the only reason why when you made that analogy, that's why I used it.
And I
thought that was a
understand
great
that.
point.
My point is that the board should understand Eric Lewis and Shafiq have been in this community for years working on dialogue regarding their schools. If you haven't been able to meet with Eric Lewis, you just haven't been in the state of Louisiana. So to raise concerns over the last 12 hours that they've been somehow inaccessible or not engaged in a community process is just a false analogy with the other circumstance at Greater Grace.
But I want you to understand, you have to ask, what community has Eric Lewis been involved in? I represent EBR. Representative Pat Smith represent EBR. Representative Ted James, Representative Regina Barrow, we all represent EBR.
And you may
Now, I
disagree
want
with
you to
Eric's proposal, but
understand-
Eric Lewis is no stranger to any one of those
Well, I
people.
want you to understand, it depends on what community you're talking about and who you're talking about in regards to this matter. So don't make it about myself or the Baton Rouge delegate. I'm making it about giving the community, giving those individuals who are elected to the people, who are responsible to the people, to have that dialogue and have that community leadership dialogue with Mr. Lewis. He have had meetings, and I've attended one meeting, but it was never about the charter school. It was about other issues in the community. So that's the point I want to make to you. So now we can hear from the comments from the community.
Okay. Can we get a motion on the table to handle this item? And I would suggest we start with the motion to approve the department's recommendations. Mr. Romer, and this is for the Baton Rouge schools. Second by Ms. Bofi. Okay.
Well, I like to
Do we
make
have- Ms. Hill.
I like to make a substitute motion to defer.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion to defer on all of the
Until the
Baton
next
Rouge,
BESE meeting.
on all of the Baton Rouge schools?
Yes.
Yes, the 2 Baton
Okay.
Rouge charter schools.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Well, I have a comment, Mr. Garvey. Before we vote, can we at least hear from the community?
That's what I was trying to figure out the best way to handle that
Yeah,
part of the
let's do
issue.
How many cards do we have? Do we have the superintendent?
31 cards.
Okay.
Well, let's hear.
Well, that clears that up.
I think that's point of order.
We'll keep it, but I'm
Okay, let's go with the speakers.
Mr.
We have a
Chairman.
motion and a second, so the motion is on the floor, and that is to defer on all of the items. We will vote on that after we hear from the speakers. Yes, ma'am.
I guess I just need additional clarification on one of the charters, because it still seems like it's so open-ended that maybe Superintendent White might want to speak a little bit more to that. But I too am very familiar with Noble Minds and have been really, really impressed with the mission of this school. I think we can't leave it as subjective as it is. I think we really do need to firm it so that they would know what's going to happen. I know that we can't control the decreases in kindergarten, but at the same time, I do think we need some definites if we can do that.
If you were running a traditional school system, you would not ever start a new school or open a new school when you're in an enrollment deficit. And here we have a charter school system. So on one hand, you're called to authorize charter schools. On the other hand, Superintendent Dobard and I must determine what the right enrollment balance is, just like a traditional school system. I will tell you, this type 2 charter school, and I have told this to Dr. Triplett, cannot open this year. It cannot open this year. it may open in a year when the enrollment restabilizes and we have another need. But I have been very clear that we cannot enter a contract with them for this year as a type 2 charter school because it would add to the number of seats in a year when our kindergarten enrollment is down. Now, I think that she has also applied for a type 5 charter school. That type 5 charter school could take over for schools that are struggling. We are recommending its approval as well. And she could provide services within a currently existing school, but a standalone new additional set of however many new kindergarten kids, 50, 100, and so. I just don't think we can do that and be fair to the school system.
Okay, and members speak up? Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman.
The public is having trouble hearing us speak, so if we could speak more directly into the microphones and a little bit louder, that will be helpful. Staff noted that I failed to mention names of people who submitted cards with an indication that they did not want to speak but wanted to be on the record. We have Kathleen Robert with Athlos Academy supporting the recommendation. Charles Brown with Athlos Academy in support of the recommendation. And Caitlin Scales with Athlos Academy in support of the recommendation. Okay. Going back to the speakers, can we have Mr. Tucker state your name and who you are representing?
My name is Mike Tucker. Again, my name is Mike Tucker, and I'm representing myself, Mike Tucker. And I'm here. I heard about Laurel Oaks about a year ago. Very impressed with the concept and the mission, and I'm here to show my support, and I think we should vote on that today. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Connolly?
Yeah, Reverend Joe Connolly with Wesley United Methodist Church, and just a couple of comments. One, I have walked the streets with Shafiq over the last year to year and a half as he has gone door to door, held community meetings and met with individuals about his concept for Laurel Oaks. I am not traditionally a support person for charter schools, but have been swayed to understand and change my thoughts by the work that the Laurel Oaks team has done and the information and research that they have shown. So I come today to support their recommendation, all the, as I said earlier, the hurdles and the hoops that we've made them jump through over the last year and a half. It's, from my sense of the standpoint as a taxpayer, it's ridiculous and it's ludicrous that we would call someone who's trying to come in and help better our system to have to go through all the stuff we've gone through with that. The other thing is, on another note, is as a taxpayer and a citizen of this city, I am sitting right here right now appalled at the decorum that exists in a meeting such as this to the public. And I think as board members, we need to, one, go back and make sure that we are totally prepared when we come to a meeting and that the inaccuracies and what is obvious, some of the personality conflicts need to happen in private meetings and not in front of us as public and as taxpayers. And with that regards, again, back to Laurel Oaks, I stand in support of them. I can't speak for the other charter schools, but I know the work that has happened over the last year to year and a half, every single day of meetings from individuals, community groups, and one-on-ones, and the work they've done. I don't know what else can be done in 30 days that has not already been done in a year and a half of the work they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have 3 other cards that have been submitted by...
Excuse me, I would like to respond to the gentleman.
Mr.
Sir,
Reverend
you made
Connolly.
reference to the presentation this afternoon regarding what I would paraphrase to be some confusion. I will say there was confusion on my part as a BESE member because I received a packet, and it had one
Correct.
set of documents, and I get this today.
Right before the meeting, exactly.
And I'm asked to respond to it. And it's about leadership and being prepared. And so I agree to some extent that we should have our act together, but that's what we call, that's the purpose. It's a public meeting and I just
Right.
wanted you to understand.
Oh, I understand. When I saw earlier that you guys were just getting the packets, and so my comment is to everybody in every department, staff as well as we as taxpayers are paying our money for a job to be done, and you should not receive that right before a meeting and be expected to be well versed on it to vote on it. However, that should not go against the organizations that have done their work to get it to where it needs to be ahead of time. They should not be penalized for someone else not doing their job. That's my whole comment. They've done their work for the last year and a half of everything that they were asked to do. What happened to it once it got to a certain place within the department is not their responsibility. It's on that department. And so we need to look internally at what's going on and what the failures are and not externally. That's my comments.
Okay, and for the record, I would note that the recommendation did not change regarding Laurel Oaks Academy. It was to approve, and it still is to approve from the department. We have 3 people who submitted cards that do not wish to speak in favor, all in support of the Laurel Oaks Charter School. We have Stefani Ashford, Juan Honore, and Sylvia Essex Winder. If we can put those into the record. We can go on now to Eric Lewis. And these are people regarding the Apex Collegiate Academy. Mandy Lacerte and Eric Dexter. Mr. Lewis, if you could give us your name and who you might be representing.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Lewis. I am the lead founder of Apex Collegiate Academy. As the superintendent indicated, I just completed a fellowship with the nationally recognized Building Excellent Schools program. Through that fellowship program, we had the opportunity to visit and study over 40 schools around the nation that serve the same demographic of students that we seek to serve at Apex Collegiate Academy. And so it was a 12-month program, very intensive, very rigorous. But in addition to that, I think the main comment that I want to make is that I'm from this community. I grew up in Baton Rouge, was born in the Banks community, grew up in St. Pius, went to public school through elementary, middle, and high school in Baton Rouge. There's nobody that can question my love for this community and my love for this city. And so we've done a tremendous amount of outreach. There are a number of pastors throughout the city. World Shakers Church International with Pastor Jeffrey Phillips. We've had an opportunity to do some outreach at his church. We have letters of support from Bishop Charles Wallace at Ocean Christian Center in our charter application. Bishop Willard Floyd Nixon, letter of support in our charter application. And then we talk about elected officials, like we've met with every elected official in this community, black and white, those that represent the neighborhoods that we seek to serve and those that represent the larger community. And so we've made outreach, we've had conversations, and so the reality is that there are some individuals that may not necessarily agree with philosophically with the idea of a charter school, but that does not mean that we have not done outreach. So we've gone through the process, we've followed the letter of the law, we've submitted an application to our local school district, we went through that process, we were interviewed, and we were denied. And so by law, we submitted an application of appeal to the district to the state and went through that process. And so what I would say to you is that, we have a number of kids and families that are highly interested in our school and the work that we tend to bring to this community. And so, we would be greatly appreciated if we could move forward with this process so we could begin the process of enrolling students and recruiting teachers.
Okay, and just for point of clarification, Mr. Superintendent, the original recommendation, am I right, was to approve, and the current recommendation is still to approve?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, Mrs. Lacerte, and then Mr. Dexter. Could you give us your name and
Thank you, Mady Lacerte, representing myself and the board of directors for Apex Collegiate. I wasn't going to speak, but I do want to make a comment in regards to community members. That was actually what attracted me to the board. I'm a late member of the board, and I can tell you that Mr. Lewis's connection to the community, I being a former educator in the North Baton Rouge area, is what drew me to this board. And it's disappointing to hear that you feel as though that should lead us to be deferred to next month, because as Mr. Lewis said, he needs to get out and do his job and start meeting with families, getting them in the door as they've already expressed interest to enroll in the school.
And just to respond to your comments, I'm not saying he may do an excellent job. He may not. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that here is a charter application that went through the local school board, and Mr. Lewis had conversation with the superintendent, I'm quite sure, and the local school board members as well, and they expressed their concerns. And then, of course, when the local school board doesn't approve a charter, they're able to come to BESE for approval. That's the law, that's the right. But my point here is that I understand he may have been in the community, but as an elected official, there were other elected officials who have concerns, who reached out to Superintendent White that I know for sure, and that's why I'm bringing it to the attention, and that's why I asked for the deferment for 30 days.
And I can appreciate that, and just again speak in support of Eric Lewis, so thank you.
Okay, Mr. Dexter, give us your name, please, and organization.
Thank you, Ron.
Can we, staff?
There we go. Thank you. My name is Eric Dexter. I'm the proposed board chairman for Apex Collegiate Charter Academy. I didn't know Eric Lewis up to about a year and a half ago. Eric approached me about serving on the board because of my community involvement. I'm currently president of Forum 35, which is a young professionals organization in Baton Rouge, as well as an ex officio board member for the Baton Rouge Area Foundation, vice president of the Baton Rouge Blues Foundation. I've been in Baton Rouge going on 11 years now, so I'm highly involved in the community, and I've heard of nothing but great things about Eric Lewis. Prior to meeting Eric Lewis, I had been approached about serving on the board for other charter schools as well. But when I heard Eric Lewis's story and his passion and his ties to the community in Baton Rouge, as well as the program that he was going through with the Building Excellent Schools program, I heard about the model, I heard about the curriculum, I heard about our core pillars and what the focus was. With a science, technology, engineering, and math, I currently work as a director of business development for a company called Civil Solutions Consulting Group. We work in the civil engineering industry. I know the importance of preparing students with a STEM focus education. So I'm here in support of Apex Collegiate Academy, and on behalf of our board, I'd like to thank all of you here for allowing us to be here today, and we're excited about the opportunity to educate our young students in August of 2016. Thank you.
Thank you. And Todd Godan, have him come down. We have some cards that may or may not be on Apex. Warren Drake, Jackie Mims, could you come down too? Okay, Mr. Godan?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I don't know. Is the light? There you go.
How about now? Yes, thank you. My name is Todd Godan. I'm an attorney here in Baton Rouge. I've been practicing law since 1997 for 20 years. And I'm one of the newest board members of Apex. And I want to say that when Eric asked me to join, I reviewed his documentation and the bylaws and all the particulars, and I was extremely impressed with the attention to detail. Eric has a passion for bringing kids up, raising the standard. The school would like to open in August of 2016. Time is wasting. We need to get on board. I understand that the board here, the BESE board, want to make sure that everything is vetted. But Eric Lewis and this board, we're ready to go. I am extremely impressed with all the professionals that have assembled to make Apex an amazing school. I met Eric 10 years ago on a nonprofit board in which Regina Barrow was the leader. And as far as community input, I consider Regina Barrow a friend. I've been in this community. I've served on many nonprofits. And I can just say that I agree with Mr. White. If you don't know Eric Lewis, and you don't know the impact he's having and wants to have, maybe you haven't been in this community. So please, I would like to ask this board for great consideration to move forward today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Drake?
Thank you. Warren Drake, Superintendent, East Baton Rouge Parish. First, this isn't personal. I know Eric and I know Shafiq. I like them both personally. But this is about two things. It's about innovation, number one. The state law says that a charter school that comes before the board, this board, should be innovative. It should be different from what the local district can provide, and it's not. So I'm going to talk just briefly on both Laurel Oaks and on Apex as well. The second thing is we need to respect local boards. I know that in the information you got today, it said that this board has considered all information. Well, probably the most important information is the information from our independent evaluator. So my question would be, that should be the first piece of information this board should use, because we went through an independent evaluation. And I'm going to read some of the things that the independent evaluator said. First, about Laurel Oaks. It's not clear that the applicants provide anything unique to the district, which is what we approve a charter school for, that it's unique, innovative, different. That the district does not provide. The charter school law was enacted by the Louisiana legislature, and this is a quote, to create a structure whereby city, parish, and other local school boards and BESE can authorize the creation of innovative kinds of independent public schools. So the first thing that they're saying is this is not innovative. The next thing it says, and this is a quote from the independent evaluator as well, it is not evident in the application or from the interview how the applicant plans to handle any suspensions or expulsions that may occur at the school. Further, what needs to be ensured is that the school will not engage in counseling students out and sending them back to the school district. There's no mention of intervention for students in the application. There's no mention of transportation, special education, 504, suspensions or expulsions. Now I'm going to speak on Apex just briefly. The applicant admitted during the interview with the independent evaluator that they had no curriculum, that they would develop a curriculum as they go. The applicant identified students who were academically behind by 2 years and do not have a plan to address that at all. It's not clear, and this is quotes as well, it's not clear how the applicant plans to provide these services. And this is also a quote. The applicant is not clear on how these special education students will be served. Now, let me say this to you. In the Apex application and in the interview with the independent evaluator, Apex mentioned FISC, the Family Youth Service Center, which is a part of East Baton Rouge Parish Schools, to provide alternative education. We don't provide that. That is not possible. I talked to Roxanne Welsh today. It's not possible. They're not going to do that. So the alternative piece is not in place there as well. But I'm going to finish up with this. The bottom line is, when a charter applicant comes before the board, East Baton Rouge Parish School Board, they do so before a democratically elected body. They do so ready, willing, and able. We look at it through an independent evaluator, just like you had. And then when it was rejected by us, they simply go down the street, reapply, and go. And this board has the option to vote it down, to defer, or to approve it. And so what I'm saying to you is, we should not continue to disrespect local school boards. It's like what we did meant nothing. All you have to do is just go down the road a few blocks, make a new application, and it comes before you. And again, I'm going to say, I like Eric. I like Shafiq. I've been superintendent in East Baton Rouge Parish 6 months. I want the opportunity to provide the best possible education for our kids, and we're going to do that one school at a time, one student at a time. So I just want to thank you, and I recommend that this be either rejected or deferred to a future date. Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Drake.
Yes, Ms. Beebe.
Mr. Drake, so you did the independent evaluation. Was there a fee associated with that?
Yes, there was. Yes. Kimberly Williams, New Millennium, did the independent evaluation.
Okay, and so from that step, from that process, is that shared with the state superintendent of education so that this board would have?
I wrote a letter to this board dated September 4th. This is the letter I wrote to this board dated September 4th, recommending that y'all not approve any additional charters at this time. I'd only been in the superintendency for about a month at the time, and asking y'all to not consider any additional charters. There were 4 charters that came to us, all independently evaluated and all rejected, mainly because there's no innovation in them. We provide all of the services that those 4 charters were offering. And that's what the charter law talks about. It talks about innovation, something that we can't offer, and that's not here.
But, and my point is, this information that you brought to light is not given to us as a board. So we have, you know,
Well,
we just have what schoolwork provides, their recommendations or their commendations.
But I think that everyone on this board knows that those 2 organizations came to us first and were rejected. And so when this board says that we've considered all available information, that should be the very first thing you look at in this decision.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Dr. Jackie Mims, and I am a member of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board once again. I don't have much more to add than what Superintendent Drake has already presented to you, and I don't want to be redundant. My opposition, he's already stated the facts. I do want to express again my concern for what I also perceive to be the disrespect of the local school districts once they have made a decision not to or to approve anything. In addition to that, I also wanted to ask the question, really, if you all had received the information from the independent evaluator, and apparently you have not. So if you have not, I would also like to be able to offer an opportunity to share that information with you. In addition to that, I also wanted to say this in regard to Eric Lewis. I've known Eric for quite some time. I did meet with Eric. I wasn't even on the school board then. We just met as a community person, active in the community. He wanted to sit down and share with me what he wanted to propose. I don't question Eric's desire and commitment and concern for the community. I think it's evident. It's been evident over the years that I've known him. But my opposition is the fact that there is no innovativeness in this, either one of these applications. In addition to that, I wanted to support Mr. Drake having an opportunity as a new superintendent to actually get time to grab a hold of the district and to also become more familiar with East Baton Rouge Parish and to develop innovative ways in which the district could address the needs of the community.
Thank you. Superintendent Drake, I have a question, if you could help me. If I understand it right, if a teacher has some kind of, or some types of disciplinary problems, the superintendent makes a recommendation to the school board on how to handle those problems, and the school board votes on whether or not to support the superintendent's recommendation. Is that right?
It depends on the level of discipline.
The level. But
yes.
Some infractions, they do
yes,
follow that
yes.
routine. Do the teachers then have a right to appeal that decision to a district court?
Do the teachers have that right?
Yes.
No, the teachers, no. The teachers, it's all part of the system. It would originate in the office of the principal. And then the principal usually takes care of 99% of the disciplinary issues on that campus.
But if it's an infraction that goes to the school board itself for a vote, there's no appeal process for that teacher after the school board's vote?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I thought that there was, and so I was wondering. But let me take it in a different direction. You were saying you didn't think that charter schools should be able to appeal a decision of the local school board to BESE, and I was wondering if you thought, how does that differ from, for instance, a court case where someone loses at the trial level and has the right to appeal to an appellate court? Do you see that as a different situation? Is that different? How is it different?
Well, again, I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but if you're talking about,
appeals,
just
appeals processes in general.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you follow the law, and the appeals process has the right to go all the way up to the highest court.
And that law would not be different from the law that the legislature passed that says that a charter applicant can appeal the local school board's decision to BESE?
I'm not saying that that's not in the law or available. What I'm saying is that this board should consider that information first before anything else. That
So we should consider. But you're not arguing that they should not have an
Oh,
appeals
absolutely
option?
not. Oh, no,
Okay.
sir. No. What I'm saying is that this board right here should have the opportunity to take a look at that as the very first piece of information and consider that as well as anything else they consider.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Members, just for
Mr.
context, thank you. Just for context to Mr. Drake's point, there were 18 decisions by local school boards where an applicant sought an appeal this year. We are bringing you 5 for approval today.
What happened to the other 13?
In 3 of them you see here, we're either recommending to put off and consider more information, or we are, or in the other 10, we simply agreed with the local school board and would not bring it forward.
And that was because we did consider the decision of the local school board and their findings?
It is, well, it's also because our independent reviewer agreed with the other reviewer. I've worked with Kim Williams for years. I know, she has her views on those issues, and SchoolWorks had a different view in these cases. But in most of the cases, to Mr. Drake's point, our independent reviewer agreed with the independent reviewer of the school board.
Okay, I'm glad we're taking all of that into consideration.
May I ask a question? The Superintendent White, would you please share with for my objectivity, and for the sake of my objectivity, would you share with the East Baton Rouge Parish School System in that you decided to bring these 2? If there was something that we missed or there was an error in the judgment of our independent evaluator and the board's decision not to approve, are you in a position to share what your findings were?
Not off the top of my head, I'm not, but I'd certainly be happy to have our staff convey that information to you.
Thank
you. That might be helpful
If I
for
may,
future situations. Yes, sir.
If I may have one more comment. I'm not as concerned about that because you have a job to do and it's in the law. I'm more concerned about the fact that it's not innovative. If you read the application, there's nothing in there that I can name many of our schools do already. And that's part of what the charter law is. That it's different, it's innovative, it's new, it's something we don't see and we can't provide. And that's what I'm more concerned about.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Mr. Romer?
If I may. The definition of innovative can mean a lot of different things. And I don't want to argue with you. I've been in plenty of charter schools where you don't walk in and you don't get hit in the face with some innovative piece of technology or, a new mousetrap or whatever it might be. Innovation could be the attitude in the building. And again, I don't want to argue with you, but I understand you're talking to a point in the law, and we can argue what the word innovation means. But I do appreciate you being here today, and you and I have had this discussion, and I appreciate and I hope you're very successful at what you do. But I don't want that word innovation to be hanging out there without somebody stepping up and saying there are a lot of different ways for a school to be innovative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Veretta Lee, do we have Ms. Veretta Lee here? Could you come down? And then we'll move on to the Kingdom Collegiate Academy. I'm sorry, before we do move on, can we have Kenyatta Nelson Smith come down too, please? Ms. Lee, can you give us your
Yes.
name and what organization you might represent?
Okay, my name is Verita Lee, a member of the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. And I'm here to represent the children of this great state, especially the children in East Baton Rouge. I want to correct a few things. My parents always taught me, never ask God why. But I'm asking this board, why would you all continue to approve charter schools that are not working? When you rate those schools, you get a 1 out of 10. You never get a 10 out of 10 like Forest Heights Academy of Excellence. We are doing everything that we possibly can with the funds that we get from the BESE board to educate all children. Any child that comes before us, we educate. We don't choose kindergarten and grow. We can't do that. We got to take every child that comes before us. And all these preachers that should be preaching to save lives, but they preaching for money off the backs of our children, I am sick of that too. And I don't disrespect preachers or pastors or whatever you want to call them. But again, we have enough choice in the school district. We were told that APEC Academy, Mr. Lewis, Eric Lewis, know him very well. Same with where I just met Feet, or whatever his name is, when he came from California to try to put a charter school in East Baton Rouge area because he thinks this is open game to come in and practice off the backs of our children. We don't need anybody practicing on our children. All we need is the support of this superintendent of education and this board to help us with the funding that we need. You're taking the local dollars from us and sending it with vouchers or scholarships. These are public funds taken from these children. All children can get a great education in this system as well as this state if we stop worrying about the dollars that is taken to educate these children. Now, I am in it for the children. Over 36 years, need me to wrap up? Okay, wrap up. My thing is, don't question God when he does something, when he takes a loved one. We don't say, God, why you took my daddy? But, Lord, why continue to award charters? Leave it to the educators. 36 years in education. See my buttons? Education prevents prisons. That's what we need to worry about, educating these children and not continuing to award charters to somebody to practice off our children, because they're the one that's going to take care of us. I don't think there's nobody up here that have a child in the public schools. I bet you don't. Thank you.
Okay, and that was Miss Nelson Smith, and you would be?
That was Veretta Lee. Hi, I'm Mary Juno. I did fill out the proper card. I know. I'm just letting her know.
Okay, hold on, please, for a minute. Ms. Veretta Lee?
No,
Ms.
Rest
Nelson?
was Miss.
Verita just left. I'm Nelson Smith.
Okay, thank you. And who are you with?
East Baton Rouge Parish School Board.
Okay.
All right, I represent District 3, so I do represent North Baton Rouge and the exact area where Mr. Lewis plans to bring Apex and where both charters are trying to come. I met with both Shafiq and Eric. I will say they did do their due diligence in meeting, but they did not state that we did not support them. We do not need any more charter schools in the North Baton Rouge community. I am one of the largest districts in that area. I represent one of the largest amount of students and parents in East Baton Rouge Parish. None of the persons that have met with Mr. Lewick or Mr. Shafiq that heavily support have actually reached out. Those that have reached out to me have asked that we do not bring any more charters into the North Baton Rouge area. If you know the District 3 area in North Baton Rouge, then you know that District 3 is the STEM district in East Baton Rouge Parish. Mr. Lewis plans to bring STEM. So I agree with Mr. Drake. That is not innovative. We have elementary, middle, and high school that are heavily supported STEM schools in our district. We do not have a need for a charter school to bring STEM into our community. I would also like to add that if you please pay attention when you're approving these charters. I know that we're saying that it is choice. East Baton Rouge Parish, being as large as it is, already have choice across our districts. Anything that our students want, we provide for all, not selectively providing. We heavily look at charter applications. It is not that we do not support charters. East Baton Rouge Parish does support charters to some extent, but when we look at them and they do not fit the needs of our community, we do not support them. So please be cognizant to the fact that we did not, and as a board member and as District 3 and North Baton Rouge representative, we did not support these two charter schools for a specific reason. So I'm going to ask that today and any future decisions that you all make, please reach out to the board members, the local board members, and actually get the community input and before you make any decisions. And I'm going to ask you to deny both of these charters in my district today and in the future.
Okay, thank you. And we have 2 cards from people who did not want to speak but are opposed to the recommendation, is Julia Manuel and Dr. Lily Lockett. So we get those into the record. And can we have Omar Rashid come down, please? Shafiq Shamsid Desh and Roxanne Welsh. And Ms. Juno, we do have a card for you. We're going to get to it in its order. But first, do we have Mr. Rashid or Mr. Rashid? Can you give us your name and your organization?
Hello, my name is Omar Rashid. I am a parent in North Baton Rouge. I'm also a supporter of Laurel Oaks. And in fact, I'm a supporter of Apex as well, because one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the conversation has been about what are schools doing and where is this innovation? The first and primary concern is always the children. And I know it's cliche. Well, somebody think about the children. But you know what? We need to think about the children today. My daughter is 4 and a half. She will be eligible. She's 5. She'll be going to kindergarten this upcoming year. And it's not enough to say, well, let's give our new superintendent a chance, because this isn't about us as the adults. We are the adults. We're the parents. We're the caretakers of our children. This is about the children now. I would like to ask a question to be answered at the end, if that's all right, which is how many of the East Baton Rouge public schools are passing and are not passing? Because I heard the most interesting saying I've ever heard, which is, the tongue of my feet speak louder, the tongue of my shoes speak louder, clearer, and more honestly than the tongue in my mouth. The reality is people are asking for something different, people are going somewhere different, and they would go somewhere different if they had better available options. One of the strongest assets of the Laurel Oaks School, and I know this for a fact, is not only is there dedication to reading and arithmetic, which are the 2 fundamental basics, and as a professor, university professor, I'm very well acquainted with how many students don't know how to read. Not only that, but it's a nourishing and an appropriate ability to have the arts, music, and other things, because we're not just drones who do math. Calculators are much superior to us at calculating. But the creative arts and also the innovation that comes from being able to think outside the box in the arts, and the literary arts and music and every other kind of art is very integrated. And I would like to leave you all with something that I know you already know. Did David have a slingshot? Didn't everybody else have that same slingshot available? It's not what you have, it's how you use it. That's where the innovation is. Thank you.
Okay. Before you leave, can I ask you, is it fair to say that, in your opinion, these charter schools are innovative?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It was time for
Shafiq? Yes. Members of the board and Mr. Chair, my name is Shafiq Shamsuddin, lead founder of Laurel Oaks Charter School. Just to give you a little bit more information about our school, we have 2 teachers in each classroom. That means we have a 14-to-1 student ratio in mathematics, and we break off in 4 groups in literacy circle to have a 7-to-1 teacher ratio. To us, that's important because that is innovative. And more importantly, we're able to help each and every single student get the education they receive. We also have something called cognitively guided instruction, which allows students to be able to work with math problems, especially word problems, in kindergarten. We also provide music, arts, as well as foreign language, starting in kindergarten. We will also have the first music lab that dedicated thanks to our partnership with O'Neill's Music World, starting in 1st grade. One thing that we also truly believe in is also supporting for our teachers. We have over 300 hours of professional development for our teachers, along with differentiated support to help each and every single one out to make sure that they're the best in the classroom. We also make sure that our teachers have a month beforehand for professional development to support them. So, yes, there's many schools that do each one of these things individually, but there's not a single school in East Baton Rouge District that does any of these all together. That's what makes us unique. One thing that we have done is, because I am not new, I am not from this community, I'm new. I have over 200 community letters of support, and also I want to thank Pastor Joe for coming down today. Unfortunately, Pastor Vin, who is at the Vietnamese Hope Baptist Church, wanted to come too, as his community is often overlooked. We are positioned to be right in our target area, not only helping students in the north, but also helping students in our eastern part of our parish. Those are the Vietnamese and Hispanic communities that have long been neglected and also do not receive the education necessary for them to read on grade level. One thing that we truly believe is always working with our district, and we've always believed in being a local option first. We worked with both superintendents, Superintendent Taylor, Also, Superintendent Drake. In fact, we were awarded the draft recommendation from the school board to approve us. However, that was later turned to denial. We also, in our conversation with Superintendent Taylor, we were supposed to have a contract to take over a school. However, that is not something that we believe in. And also with Superintendent Drake, he offered me a principalship. However, we need a school that starts next year to be able to help those students in our community. Thank you very much.
Okay. And to make sure I understand you correctly, do you think that this Laurel School is innovative?
It's innovative, but it's also based on what works, sir.
Okay. And that was Laurel Schools. The last two people speaking in favor of Laurel Schools, along with other schools. Roxanne.
That's right, Roxanne Welch.
Okay.
And I'm the director of the Family and Youth Service Center. And basically, I want to make sure that I go on record fixing something that may or may not be in existence. It was yesterday afternoon, late yesterday afternoon, I was told that the Family and Youth Service Center was written into the plan for Apex as alternative education. We don't do that. We never have. We never will. We do a lot of stuff, but we've never done that. And up until yesterday at 4 o'clock, I wasn't even aware that we were in this proposal. And so if that indeed is the case, which I've not seen the proposal even to this time, I've seen the reasons for the school board denying it, and it actually lists the Family and Youth Service Center. So I need y'all to understand, we don't do that. We're not set up to do it. We will never do that.
But
Superintendent.
having seen the application, your organization is not part of the application. You're not there. There's a section in the application for critical partners. You are not there. I do believe that in the narrative section, Mr. Lewis has mentioned you among other organizations as one that he has effectively engaged, to my recollection, but it is not listed as a critical partner in the application.
And that's really all. I've not seen it. So I'm just making sure that everybody's fully aware that that's something that we do not do.
I have a copy of it for her right here, just coincidentally.
Well,
where
this
her
is a
group's
copy.
name.
Yeah, this is a copy of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System's denial, and the reason it says that the applicant is not clear on how alternative education will be provided to students. Applicant identified FISC as an alternative education, but it's not clear how the service will be provided. However, this is the reasons that East Baton Rouge Parish denied it. That's all I know. So.
Okay, thank you. Mary Juneau, I can get Mr. James Finney to come down, and Bishop D. Kohler.
Time is up. I think you just heard me.
Mr. Finney.
I'm Dr. James Finney. I'm a mathematician and a scientist. I'm more comfortable with facts than with spin. First, I've lived in Baton Rouge 21 years, and unless I turn around and shake my hand, I will have never met Eric Lewis. I hope to resolve that when I'm done speaking. But Baton Rouge is a big town. The suggestion that we can be involved in public education and not cross paths with whoever is in John White's inner circle is an insult to my intelligence, your intelligence, and to the community. Furthermore, the term Baton Rouge Achievement Zone was thrown out by the superintendent. That is an empty term with no meaning. I repeatedly asked to see what the boundaries of that alleged zone are, and they've apparently never been defined. Next item. A member of the public recently asked about the number of schools in the East Baton Rouge public school system that are failing. I would assume that he means those that have been assigned the grade of F by the state's accountability system. And it's worth noting that school letter grades track poverty almost perfectly. So if a community has a substantial number of failing schools, it means they have a substantial number of high poverty students they're serving, and that's all it means. A school district with a letter grade of A has relatively low poverty. That is all that letter grade means. I'm also a stickler for transparency. I wish Mr. White was here so I could remind him of the pending public record requests that his department has yet to fulfill. But it disturbs me that you're considering an application for 2 charter schools, and you didn't bother put in links to the actual applications in the public backup that was available online that we might have reviewed before the meeting. And since it sounds like my time is almost up, I actually agree with Mr. White that we should not defer this decision, but I think it's necessary to deny these requests today, because you should not circumvent your judgment over the judgment of my elected school board. If Mother Teresa were still alive and wanted to open a non-innovative school for which there was no demonstrated need, I would expect the answer to be no, no matter how wonderful a person she might be, and no matter how persuasive her friends are. If the school is not innovative, and moreover there is no need, and the public representatives have determined that there is no need, and it would be inappropriate use of my tax money, I would expect that you would not overrule that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Juneau.
Hi, I'm Mary Juneau, and I'm back. I'm a parent of 3 kids in East Baton Rouge, and Mr. Romer is my BESE member. And I also know Ms. Hill very well because she's in our schools frequently. I am an educational advocate and a community volunteer. And I'm here today to ask that you support my locally democratic school board to deny the charter application to Apex Southeast and to Laurel Oak charters. The East Baton Rouge Parish School Board consists of democratically elected officials who have the most knowledge of our school systems, our families, and our community. They have a relationship with our superintendent, principals, faculty, and students, so they know our values. It is very clear from the discussion today that many of you have no idea what programs exist in East Baton Rouge Parish School System. You don't. My sons have attended a STEM elementary. It's magnet so that anyone from the district can come. This is not our only STEM program. It's apparent to me that you also are unfamiliar with superintendent academies. They are targeted for at-risk students. If you go online, you can immediately get a school-wide program plan as a parent that gives you detailed information. What is our vision and mission? How are we getting there? There's not a cheer saying, hey, we're strong. It identifies specific components of a scope and sequence. Programs such as Read 180, Math 180, how data is actually going to be collected. I brought it for you here today because it's apparent that you don't know that this is but one of several academies designed to remediate at-risk children. So I want you to honor the decision, and I'm speaking as the leader of Friends of Public Ed, so I think I get more time. I want you to honor the decision of people who are the voice closest to voters. The charter school law provides a mechanism for all persons with valid ideas to participate in the development of innovative schools. I'm sorry, but these are not innovative because they're not presenting anything new. At present, we have several superintendent academies that are designed to meet the needs of overage population. Nowhere in these applications do they address the poverty issues or the learning and cognitive problems that have allowed children to be 2 or more grade levels behind. This is not the fault of teachers. This is, in some cases, the way children were born, and in some cases, the way they were educated, and in some cases, the home life or a combination. But nowhere in this documentation are those issues addressed. Laurel Oak says it's going to address this community by expulsions and suspensions. I don't like hearing that as a parent or as a voter. There are vague and lofty promises that they're going to attract 120 students and the MFP dollars. So what's going to happen when they take in an at-risk population, suspend them? What's going to happen to those MFP dollars? Are they going to go back to the traditional school? Because the children are going to go back. And in that sense, that's why we think we're getting taxation without representation. that you want our MFP dollars, but you are removing local control and our voice, and yes, Chaz, our choice. Our choice.
Thank you. Is Bishop
Can
Kohler
I submit
here?
these? Can I
Ma'am?
submit this?
Yes,
so y'all
ma'am.
can
Please
read
give it to
about the
BESE staff, and they will
superintendent
make copies and pass them out to us. Okay, then we will move on to Felton Kohler, Jacqueline Gabriel, and Deontay Green. I'm sorry, what's that? We're handling all of the Baton Rouge schools, which I thought, that's Lafayette. Okay, well, we already voted to deny. Well, okay, I'm sorry. Could you come down and speak, please?
And you took Reverend Dr. Lily A. Lockett, who took 38 years in Clifford Other School, and then also Julia Manning, teacher for 5 years.
Okay. Okay. Yes, let's go ahead and do this. If the Kingdom Collegiate Academy could sit down on the front row, please. We will come back to you in just a minute. We have a motion on the floor that is, as I apologize, not germane to the Lafayette School. And the current motion on the floor is to defer the Baton Rouge charter applicants. And do we have any further questions or comments?
Yeah, I would just like to make a final comment since
Yes,
it's
yeah.
out of my district. As a final statement, I would just like to say, as the BESE representative for District 8, I have diligently worked with my community. I'm not against charter. I just sat here and voted for charter schools that are working. In the past, I have advocated for charter schools in North Baton Rouge that are currently working for our children. And when you think about the North Baton Rouge area, it's a very critical area. And when you think about the majority of the schools in North Baton Rouge, those are schools that have been taken over by the Recovery School District and now is currently operated by charter authorizers. So when you look at East Baton Rouge Parish, I don't want individuals to think that North Baton Rouge is a product of East Baton Rouge Parish, because majority of those schools that are in North Baton Rouge are charter schools. I really want everyone to understand that point. And East Baton Rouge have done a tremendous job in expanding choice throughout the entire school district. And I am, as the BESE representative, asking my colleagues to defer this matter, because I strongly believe in collaborative organization, communication with districts. And I don't want Mr. Lewis, because I don't have anything, this is not personal. I know Eric very well. I've never met the other gentleman. I do want the best for the children. But I don't want these groups to go in and have a disconnect with the school districts. We all have to work together, whether it's a charter school, whether it's a private school or traditional setting. For the best of our children, we all have to work together with one another. And I think the best approach is that we need the conversation with the leaders in those communities and see how we can help our children. And so I asked my board members to defer for 30 days and allow that dialogue. I know Mr. Lewis have met with some leaders, and some of the leaders are not here because they had to attend a retreat. But they reached out to Superintendent White and asked for the deferment as well. And so I plead to my board members and ask for the deferment to the next board meeting so we can get it right and so we all can still work together for our children.
Okay, do we have any comments, any other comments from BESE members?
I would maybe just state a fact,
Superintendent.
just to be clear. There are about 45,000 kids in the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. There are only 2,000 kids in the Charter Achievement Zone. So the idea that the majority of seats in North Baton Rouge are charter schools is just not true. Secondly, I think it just needs to be put on the table. There are 20,000 kids in this parish in DNF schools. Now, that's not Superintendent Drake's doing. He's here to fix that issue. And it's not the school board's doing or any particular family's doing, but it is a tragic situation. So I don't want to create falsehoods about this charter scheme or whatever, that the majority of seats, that's just not true. But what is true is that almost half the kids in this parish attend a D or an F rated school. And when you really think about them, you have to ask yourself, is that something you can just abide by?
Superintendent White, you just approved some charters that were D and F. You just extended charters that were D and F with an 18.9% school performance score. So to be honest with you, your statement is exactly what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, the schools that are taken over by charters in North Baton Rouge, when you look at Crestworth Middle School, that's charter. Glen Oaks, charter. Prescott, charter. Lanier, charter. Dalton Elementary. Those are the charters. That's North Baton Rouge. That's my district, Superintendent White. And when was the last time you were in that community, knocking on those doors, talking to those parents? Because guess what? Miss Dr. Nelson, who just spoke, and these school board members that represent that area, they have to go back and face that community. And when I go through that community, it's disheartening to see what I see. When I walk those doors, you heard the young lady say, I'm in those schools because I'm passionate about what I do. And I love what I do. And I want the best for those children. Because you know why? Because I was one of those children. And my only way out was in education. And so I sit here to my board members and I ask them to give them 30 days to the next board meeting. How would it hurt? You defer greater grace and give them opportunity. Give them 30 days to have the community dialogue so they can go in and we all can work together, not apart. And that's my point.
Okay. Any other BESE members?
I'd just like to question, what is the letter grade for EBR?
I believe East Baton Rouge is a C.
It's a C.
Okay. Any other BESE members? Okay, the motion on the floor is to defer till next month on these charter school proposals. Do we need a roll call vote?
Yes,
We have an objection. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Beebe?
Yes.
Dr. Beebe votes yes. Dr. Bofi?
No.
Dr. Bofi votes no. Ms. Bradford?
No.
Ms. Bradford votes no. Mr. Guillot?
No.
Mr. Guillot votes no. Ms. Harris is absent. Ms. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Hill votes yes. Dr. Moranti?
No.
Dr. Moranti votes no. Ms. Orange Jones?
No.
Ms. Orange Jones votes no. Mr. Romer?
No.
Mr. Romer votes no. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Smith votes yes. Mr. Garvey, do you wish to vote?
Yeah, I vote no.
Okay, Mr. Garvey votes no. You have
Okay.
7 noes and 3 yes.
So that motion fails. We go back to the original motion, which was to approve the recommendations as the department submitted them today. Do we have any questions on that motion?
I like a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Excuse me.
And that's all.
Yes, and we'll come back to.
What is this? What is the
This
motion?
is to approve the department's recommendations on the Baton Rouge schools, which, if I understand it right, is to approve Apex and to approve Laurel Oaks.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll
Dr.
call,
Beebe?
please.
No.
Dr. Beebe votes no. Dr. Bofi?
Yes.
Dr. Bofi votes yes. Ms. Bradford?
Yes.
Ms. Bradford votes yes. Mr. Guillot?
Yes.
Mr. Guillot votes yes. Ms. Harris is absent. Ms. Hill?
No.
Ms. Hill votes no. Dr. Moranti?
Yes.
Dr. Moranti votes yes. Ms. Orange Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Orange Jones votes yes. Mr. Romer? Mr. Romer votes yes. Ms. Smith?
No.
Ms. Smith votes no. Mr. Garvey, do you wish to vote?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Garvey votes yes. You have 7 yeses, 3 noes.
Okay, the motion carries. Can I get a motion to reconsider the Kingdom Collegiate Academy portion of this item? Okay, we have a second. Ms. Jones, maybe?
Sure.
Okay, do we have any objections to that motion? Hearing none, the motion carries. Let's go ahead and get a motion on the floor. The department's recommendation is to deny. Can we get a motion to follow the department's recommendation?
So moved.
Ms. Smith, we have a second. Mr. Guillot? Okay, we have speakers on this item. Before we have speakers, do we have any questions from BESE members? Yes, Mr. Superintendent.
So there were 18 rejected applicants locally. We brought 5 to you for an override of that. We did that based on the recommendation of SchoolWorks. This applicant was approved by SchoolWorks, and I give them great credit. They have a good application, they've worked on it for multiple years, and they've brought it back. We have told them, however, that based on my discretion, I am not prepared to bring to you a recommendation that we abide by SchoolWorks' recommendation. And they have chosen, in spite of that knowledge, to persist and come today to present their case. They are more than free to do that. I don't think a public meeting is the appropriate place to have the kind of discussion that I think perhaps this will bring to light, but I will tell you my concerns are regarding the leadership capacity, temperament, and evidence of maturity that I have seen in a variety of formats demonstrated by the proposed leader of this application. I'm going to leave it at that, and if you or the applicant should choose to want to delve further into that, then I will abide by that and I'll respond to it. But for now, I will leave my comments at that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other BESE members at this time? Ms. Smith?
Mr. Chairman, would it be appropriate then for a motion to suggest that they have a meeting with the superintendent outside of the board meeting? Would that be something that would be appropriate?
Is there a motion on the floor?
The motion on the floor is to deny.
That would have to be a substitute motion.
You know, I really think this is very interesting because when you look at SchoolWorks approved this group, approved their charter application. And it appears to me, Superintendent White, maybe you're very subjective in who you want to allow to have charter schools. Because what I've noticed across the board, SchoolWorks will approve and then you will make the recommendation and say not approve or to approve. Maybe we have given you too much authority to make that decision and make that recommendation for the board. Because majority of the people that I have seen that have come before this board for approval, it's been very political. Let's put it out on the table. And so when you see groups like this group that's here today, they were approved by SchoolWorks. And like I said, I'm not against charter, I'm for what's right. And then you make the recommendation that you don't want to approve them. So it appears to me that most of your decision making is your own opinion, maybe your own judgment to what decisions you want to make for whatever certain groups that you want to make them for.
Well, you can interpret it whatever way you want, but the facts are very simple, ma'am.
I want to make
the facts are that what you're saying is
the purpose of us having an independent agency to come in to evaluate the charter groups, and then you make the decision to do the opposite, and then you make that statement that you just made.
Perhaps I should have been clear.
Very alarming.
I'm sure it is.
If I could
I don't think that the facts that are apparent to me were apparent to the entity. And Ms. Hill, you make a point about how this is constantly happening. This is happening once. You accused us in the last go-round of authorizing too many charters. Now you're saying we're not authorizing enough charters. And yes, and we have a fair process, which is we abide by the recommendation unless there's evidence to the contrary, and I have said there's evidence to the contrary. Once, in one case.
And, okay. Mr. Patrick Clarkston, Alicia Clarkston, and Michael Exridge.
Yes, hi. My name is Alicia Clarkson, and I'm the CEO of Kingdom Builders Community Development Corporation. I'm also a Believe and Succeed grant recipient. I'm listening to it, and I totally agree in regards to a fair, equitable, transparent application process. And so I'm very open to discuss what it is, Superintendent White, that you would like to discuss in terms of my leadership ability or my character, because you stood with me. Let's go back. In 2013, you awarded me $78,000 of taxpayers' money as a leader to operate a charter school, to implement this model that has been approved by SchoolWorks. You stood with me, smiling. We did a conference together and said, this is a leader that we're endorsing, that we're going to invest. You recommended to BESE board to agree to invest into me $78,000 as a leader. I have not changed from being that person. So let's put it on the table. According to what I have here, according to what have been told to me in regards to why our charter is not being recommended for approval is because, one, and Bessie Board can reference the information sheet that was turned in from the Department of Education. One, they said that our demand from our student demand came majority from Iberia and St. Mary Parish, which at the time we had turned in 280 signatures showing support for our school. We received notification of this within 10 days of this meeting. To show on the contrary of how we're supported in our community, within 10 days, our board and our supporters now have for you collectives to show to Bessie Board, as well as to you, Superintendent, an additional 285 signatures that comes from Lafayette Parish, which represents 56% of the support that we have presented to show support of our school to be in the district. The other point out that was made in regards to why our charter was being denied, they said because in addition, 5 of the 9 board members live in Iberia and St. Mary parishes, whereas only 1 lives in Lafayette Parish. Well, this should not even be a factor, because according to Bulletin 126, Chapter 21, it clearly states for Type 2 charter schools, at least 60% of the board members must reside in any parish that's included in the charter school's attendance zone. Therefore, we are in compliance with the law. And so when you make these comments, and I heard whenever they voted to deny, they made a motion to deny our charter without us even having an opportunity to speak. And I understand they kind of pushed on the side to address the issue with EBR, but we have, for 4 years, we have been 3 times before Bessie Board. This is our 3rd time before Bessie Board. You said about being transparent, about correcting.
Clarkson, would you like to yield your time to Mrs. Clarkson? Okay,
yes, he's yielding his time. Have corrected deficiencies. We've corrected our deficiencies. We have done everything that is imaginably possible. Everything that was requested, we have received recommendation of schoolworks. Every charter application that received that, hey, they have the endorsement of you guys as well. Now, what you're referring to, and I'll be the one first to bring it up, you're referring to a Super Nanny show that my family and I starred on. Okay, and so that show aired in 2012, but in 2013, Superintendent, you stood there and acknowledged me and advised Bessie Board members to invest $7,000 to $8,000 of taxpayer money in me as a leader to do exactly what I've done. To operate a charter school, to go into the community, gain the support of the community, to present our charter application to SchoolWorks, and they have recommended us for an approval. Now, today, you're saying something different that's what's been said on paper. What's been documented on paper, 2 reasons. Demand for support of our school, and I'm sure that been passed out. The 285 signatures that we collected in 10 days to show the demand of our support of our school for Lafayette. And also, you stated about, and according to what was documented, our residency of our board members. Those were the things that was put on the table. But today you bring something different on the table. And so I am very, very open and ready to hear what else. Because according to David Shepard, the EBR personnel, he said that the bottom line, the reason why our charter was not going to be approved is because Broussard is starting to be the white suburbs of Lafayette, and we were bringing our black economically disadvantaged children to their backyards. That's not okay. That is not okay. And so if that's not what this is about, we have the mayor of Broussard, who that's his city. He has served that city for over 2 decades.
Excuse me 1 second. Mr. Exridge, are you willing to yield your time?
No, he can speak.
Yes,
Bishop is giving me her time.
And I would like Alicia to close. I have worked very closely with the Department of Ed and with educators around the state of Louisiana in my role as Executive Director of Advanced Innovative Education. We are supporters of all schools, quality schools, and my job and what is given to me as a public interest, because we are a nonprofit organization, is to make sure quality schools are developed that are going to be around and be effective. Now, I've been in here pretty much all day since noon, and the words transparency, proven success, autonomy with accountability, transparency, all of those things you know are in that application. Innovative. The board of this organization, I really kind of got the preacher in me now, but the board took a very innovative approach that no charter school that I know of in Louisiana has done. And that is hold the leadership accountable with an external evaluator that reports to the board every month on how she is doing. No charter school in the state of Louisiana has dedicated that kind of accountability to the people who are ultimately in charge of that school. That school is the responsibility of these people sitting back here. And they've done something that no other charter school has done. And I dare say, I meet with David, I meet with your staff on a regular basis, and we're working together to make sure we have good charter schools. I'm a bit disappointed that your reasoning around leadership does not mix with the recommendation for denial.
Mr. Expert, we need to ask you to come to a conclusion, please.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but that's just not right. And believe me, I am an advocate of good education and good models that really work. So I'm a bit disappointed in that. At least be fair about what you're doing.
Thank
Alicia,
you.
may want
And was
to
that
close.
Jacqueline Gabriel that gave her time to you?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Felton Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Colon?
Yes. Yes. I would like to say that I have a letter from a developer.
Can we get the organization you're with?
I'm a licensed general contractor, Boys Construction Service, and I've been meeting with different industry professionals. I even got to meet with the developer that offered her organization to be able to give them land to be able to build upon. His response was that Kingdom Collegiate is vital to the economic development of this area. As the school will provide employees with the opportunity to build a pipeline of workers to meet industry needs, develop and advance its workforce through their education program. Kingdom Collegiate will provide industry-based certification to potential employees, thus attracting business leaders to the Broussard area. He wrote that because he's in the process of developing a 360-acre industrial park in that area, and he knows that this school will be very good in developing a pipeline of students to the industries that's going to be operating in that area. I myself, as a fitter, has been working at the Port of Iberia. I've seen companies leave and close because the knowledge that's needed to build these projects is not there. So I'm for Kingdom Collegiate because I know that they will provide the students that's needed to make this area here flourish.
Okay, thank you.
And Ms. Gabriel did yield her minutes to me.
Deontay Green, are you yielding your time?
No, you can speak, but Ms. Gabe did, and I just wanted to. I'll wait till he's finished.
Good afternoon. My name is Deontay Green. I'm a resident of Lafayette Parish, and in the absence of the Mayor of Broussard, Mayor Longlinay, I would like to reference a letter of endorsement for Kingdom Collegiate Academy of Excellence submitted by the mayor himself. I would like to quote this. It says, "It is my pleasure to write a letter in support of Kingdom Collegiate Academy of Excellence, the proposed career and technical focused charter high school for Lafayette District. As the mayor of Broussard, I embrace innovation for the greater good of our children, communities, and economy. Kingdom Collegiate Academy of Excellence will provide opportunities for students to attain economic self-sufficiency while meeting the needs of the industries that are prominent to this area. The school's model engages parents, city officials, industry leaders, educational experts, business owners, the labor workforce, and other stakeholders to collaboratively focus on improving the quality of education for our children, also while identifying and addressing the needs of the local workforce. I do agree with Ms. Clarkson that the location of her charter school and curriculum would be the Broussard area. Broussard is situated in the middle of an area that has over 1,500 all-service companies, and in fact there are close to 1,000 businesses within Broussard alone. I think the really big benefit of our location is travel distance from school to where the kids could be interned and finish their training and certifications. I totally support her charter application within Broussard. Sincerely, Charles E. Langley, the mayor of the city of Broussard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And can we have Mr. Jerome Payu come down, please? And Mr. Payu, are you speaking, P.O., are you speaking about this issue, or is it? Okay.
I guess we're good afternoon right now. I am opposed to any charter school being built or opened within the close to Vermilion Parish. We currently offer multiple industry-based certifications. Exactly what is being proposed right here. We have embraced the Jumpstart curriculum, have worked very closely with our local Jumpstart team to provide pathways for multiple districts, almost every district across the state. We feel that this would not be a good time to open or to address any type of charter application in our area. Broussard is growing, but also Vermilion is also. I know Lafayette Parish is currently under construction to build another high school in that area. Plus, Vermilion Parish has just opened a middle school, and we'll be addressing the growth in the Maurice area. We offer industry-based certifications, like I said, and this is just not a good time to introduce another charter school in the Vermilion Parish, Lafayette, St. Martin, Iberia area. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was given Ms. Gabriel minutes. Can I just speak for a second? Just to kind of piggyback what he was saying, in our recommendation for approval, Schoolworks stated that one of the strengths of our application was that we provided a clear description of the problem with detailed, well-researched data on the region, creating a compelling need for our school. And so we proposed our student population to come projected 40% from Lafayette, 23% from Iberia, 20% St. Martin, 10% Vermilion, 5% St. Mary, and 2% St. Landry parishes. And that's based upon the student, the demands and signatures that we receive from the stakeholders.
Okay.
So in conclusion, we stated the facts that was brought before us. These were the things that the department said of why we were being recommended for a denial. And now it's something different. He says something about character that I'm more than happy to entertain and listen to as well. But let's not forget that $78,000 of taxpayers' money has been invested in me that was recommended by Superintendent White to be a leader and open up this charter school. I have fulfilled my obligation. The Department of Ed and Schoolworks both agreed that we've presented a sound school model. I'll now ask BESE your vote to not deny our charter application based on the department claims of a mismatch regarding our proposed school location, especially when we have just demonstrated evidence of 52% of our student demand from Lafayette Parish. Within 10 days, we were able to collect what was needed because we were told 10 days prior to this meeting that we were not being supported for those reasons. But I ask that you would approve Kingdom Collegiate Academy of Excellence to address the mismatch between high wage, high demand employers' expectations and potential employers' skill sets for the Acadiana region. And if there's another reason other than what was told to me about the location and was documented for BESE board, Superintendent White said something about leadership and about immaturity and all these other things, I'm more than happy to discuss it.
Okay. Do we have any questions from BESE members? Hearing none, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any objections to the motion?
I think we do need to discuss it. Just so we're on the same, because I do think, I think that I do want to be able to understand a little bit more about the leadership and immaturity piece, since that has been cited and has come up. And there has been a reference to reality show. I would like to understand more about what that is and how, yeah. So do you want to explain?
Absolutely. So America's Super Nanny Show, my family and I'm a mother of 7 children, and my husband is here as well with me, Pat Clarkson. And we started on the Super Nanny Show back in 2012. The show, the purpose of us being on the show was being that we are both educators. I'm a doctoral candidate. He has his master's degree as well. It can become overwhelming when you are pursuing your career as well as having to tend to your family as well and making sure that everybody's needs are met. So the purpose of the show was so that we can demonstrate to other individuals, because so many people have a concept that once they begin having a family, that's it. That their goals and their dreams and their ambitions then have to just kind of die. And so my overall purpose was to empower other females that they can see, wow, she have her master's, being a doctoral candidate, her husband also educated, they're raising 7 children, and what can they do to have a peaceful household? So what we demonstrated was pretty much what we practice, what we preach, demonstrating positive behavior reinforcement of how you can, same concept of awarding incentives for your children in your classroom to encourage positive behavior and good academic performance. The same thing you can do at home if done with fidelity and commitment. And that's the overall concept of the show.
I saw the video. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And unfortunately, your portrayal was not of that strong woman or that in-control woman or that woman that had control of her household. And now you're asking us to put you in control of other people's children. That's a concern to me.
Well, the purpose of the show, because I'm familiar with the Super Nanny show. I watched the Super Nanny. And the purpose of the show is the individual who's produced the show come in and help, maybe because I'm a social worker, I understand, help parents learn how to cope and interact in a family. And I'm quite sure we all, I don't have any kids, but I'm quite sure Ms. Bradford and some of the other ones who have children on the board, there are situations where you have to get support and you have to have interventions that come into your home, which they open their home and their life to a show. And that's only the purpose of the show, is to come in and to help families and to teach them interventions of how to be even more successful, which I don't think anything wrong with that, because if you have a drinking problem, you got to go to and you have to go seek a social worker or a counselor. So, I mean, that's the purpose. I don't think they don't have anything to do with her character or who she is as a person or what she can do and what she cannot do.
And I just want to reiterate that this show was aired before I was even a Believe and Succeed candidate, and they awarded me the $78,000 of taxpayer monies that BESE board voted and agreed upon. It's the same person, it's me. And so this was done even before that. And with the show, nowhere in any law we're talking about the law here. I hear everybody keep talking about charter law and law. Where does it say that because someone was on a show, then it's a question of their character? Well, we submitted in terms of behavior plan to school works as well as Department of Ed. We included disciplinary policies and procedures for all students, including those with exceptionalities that incorporate research-based discipline practices such as positive behavior interventions and support restorative justice principles in accordance with Louisiana law. Matter of fact, when I spoke with the department personnel, David Shepard, and he's in here, I believe, today, one of he highly spoke of how out of all the other charter applicants, how thorough our discipline was in terms of our practices and reinforcement of positive behavior. And so that was a plus pointed out to us by the department as well as school works.
Okay, Ms. Kingston, if I could, correct me if I'm wrong, did this show have videotape containing you disciplining your relatively young child with a belt?
No, I spanked my son on the hand, and I stated that I believe in whipping my children. As a Christian, that's what I stated.
You stated that you believe in whipping your children.
Yes, I did say that.
Would that be whipping them with your hand or with a belt?
Well, on the show, I spanked my son with my hand.
Okay, but your statement that you believe in whipping your children, was that
Right,
a statement
so-
regarding whipping them with your hand or whipping them with the belt?
Well, my question, sir, is what does that have to do with the charter? Corporal punishment. Principals are allowed to paddle children. They're allowed to paddle children. What does that have to do? Corporal punishment is not illegal, and we're not opting to provide any type of corporal punishment in our school at all. We
Right.
outline the discipline policy.
Right, and I agree, and it's not illegal. But I was told that the video contained footage of you whipping a child with a belt. And you're telling me that that is not true? Maybe it isn't true. But are you telling me that that's not true?
I spanked my son. I spanked my son on the hand, and also in the beginning of the video, there is a video clip when we were running around the house, and I'm chasing my son with a belt.
But-
And if you look at it closely, we're laughing and we're playing.
I just have a question. What does this have to do with the charter?
Well, that's to attack me personally. That's to attack me personally. I'm okay with
I'm
that.
quite sure some of us on this
I'm
board
okay
have
with
got spanked by our parents.
Ms. Hill, you haven't been recognized by the chair. Ms. Bradford, you have not been recognized by the chair.
Sorry, Ms. Bugby.
I mean, come on, are you serious?
Ms. Hill, you have not been recognized by the
That's okay,
chair.
this is insane. This is crazy.
Give me just a second. Mr. Garvey, are you finished with your questions?
No, I want to clarify what I was told, because apparently what I was told was maybe not accurate. And I was told that the video also contained footage that showed you hitting one of your older children with your hand.
What? You just
Ms. Clarkson, if you'd like to tell him that you'd rather not answer that question,
That's fine too.
that's up to you.
That's fine
What-
too.
what I do-
I'm not saying it did happen. I'm just asking. what-
Right, and I already answered that question.
I'm
And
sorry, I didn't-
I just,
What was your answer to the question?
my answer to the question was I spanked my son.
No, this
And
is
with
the
with the older son, you just asked me if I whipped him. With the older son,
yeah.
in the beginning of the show, we are running around, I'm playing and I'm chasing him around with a belt. And if you watch it, you can pull it up and we're laughing and we're playing.
Okay.
But I want to know what does have to do with, do you whip your children? How do you discipline, do you have children?
I'm not answering that question.
Oh, okay.
I'm not applying for a charter school.
Can I, excuse me.
Wait.
Okay.
And interrogate her?
I
just not right.
I think what.
Mr. Garvey.
That's not right. And I don't.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
You,
But
but you are.
But you are.
right. And I apologize.
You're saying that how.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes, ma'am.
are you finished?
No. I would say that how people treat children when they're asking to be in charge of children is a relevant issue in considering whether or not to approve them for a charter.
Well, why did you then recommend Superintendent White recommend me as a leader and invested $7,000 to $8,000 of taxpayers' money to me?
I don't think
I'm going
the
to give
information.
Superintendent White the floor now.
There's a reason that I was hoping we didn't go down this road.
You opened it.
I opened it with the truth, ma'am. And the truth is that I believe in my heart as an educator, I can never tell you how to educate your children, nor how to discipline your children, but that you chose to engage in the behavior you did on national television as an observer of children and education, I am appalled by. And that is the heart and soul of why I have brought this recommendation to you. Now, as a courtesy to you and to the dignity of this process, I will recommend, because of the issues that Ms. Clarkson has raised regarding this knowledge came late to me, I never would have awarded grant money to anybody who I saw behaving in that way on national television, on a video that will forever be memorialized on the internet, sad as that is for you. But if it is better for this body, and if it's better for the process, then I'm willing to recommend that we defer so that we can put together a proper recommendation and bring it back to the next board. But you will not hear from me, anyone who's going to be on this board, a recommendation any different from that. You will just see the information appropriately conveyed, because I do not believe my mind can be changed and my team's mind can be changed about what I saw in that video.
Superintendent White can't make motions, so.
I make a substitute motion to defer.
And I second.
So we have a substitute motion to defer and a second. Is there any objection with the motion to defer? Hearing none, motion carries.
Until January.
Motion to defer until January. Ms. Bradford, does that work for you? Thank you. Is there any are there any objections? Hearing none, motion carries.
Okay, that concludes all of the issues under that item. Can we go to the next item, please? Oh, yes, we do. Is it Miss Triplett or Mr. Dr. Triplett? And what issue is? Which one? What do we do? Okay, you approved your school, as you know. Do you still feel a need to?
I just will not be long at all.
Okay.
I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you. And, I'm sorry, I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you. I respect the decision of the board. I just wanted to speak to some things that were unique about Noble Minds so that the board would have made their decision sort of fully aware of what Noble Minds has to offer. Noble Minds is a school that seeks to, of course, educate all children, but we have been uniquely designed to work with children who have emotional and behavioral disorders. Part of the reason why we were looking to open in 2016 is because what we have been told is that there is a need to fill that sort of a gap for very young children in the city. I do understand the responsibilities of the superintendent to manage a portfolio of schools and respect his decision, but I just wanted to make sure that I was clear about what it is that Noble Minds is prepared to do and how we are prepared to do it. We are absolutely open to alternative ways to get the school launched, and we are hoping that we can come to some sort of an agreement with the department to make that happen as quickly as possible. I am a native New Orleanian, a veteran educator. I have a bachelor's degree in undergraduate education, a master's degree in mental health counseling, and a PhD in counselor education. I've also worked extensively in the areas of juvenile justice reform and children's mental health. We have, as part of our support structure in the city of New Orleans, organizations like Agenda for Children, the Youth Empowerment Project, the Families and Friends of Louisiana's Incarcerated Children, all because they believe in our abilities to prevent some of the behaviors that you've heard talked about here over the course of the last several hours. Again, our goal is not to subvert or circumvent anything that the department has recommended. We just want to be able to work as diligently as possible to get our school open as quickly as possible.
Okay, thank you. What's the next item?
Your next item is on page 70, item 3.1, consideration of a report regarding Estruma High School. The department recommendation is to receive.
Okay, can we get a motion to receive? Ms. Bradford, second by Ms. Bofi. Superintendent, I think you were going to address this?
Yes, members, I want to give you an update on this process and to also entertain any directive from you regarding this process. As you know, since he took over the East Baton Rouge Public School System, Superintendent Warren Drake has been moving fast on a number of changes. He is a former high school principal himself and is committed to the effective operation of high schools across the parish. To that end, we have been working on an agreement to give academic and operations control of the Estruma High School facility in North Baton Rouge to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. Years ago, the state took control of that building and has not found an appropriate operator for that school. Superintendent Drake thinks it's possible that East Baton Rouge Parish could be that operator, and so we have been working collaboratively together and hope to finalize whatever arrangement is appropriate quickly.
Okay, we have a few speakers on this. Dr. Jackie Mims, is she still here? Barbara Feiberg, if she is here, and Veretta Lee. Okay. Then can we have Superintendent Warren Drake please come down?
Well, Chairman and Superintendent White, members of the board, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here. And this is a very exciting time for East Baton Rouge Parish Schools regarding the potential getting back of Estruma High School. I want to talk just a little bit about it real quick. Many of you may know, but Estruma is one of the most iconic high schools in East Baton Rouge history. It was started in 1917, so next year, about a year from now, we'll have a 100th anniversary birthday for Estruma High School. The current facility was built in 1948. As you all know, the only LSU Heisman Trophy winner was a Estruma Indian. It also, and you may not know this, but Baton Rouge High School and Estruma High School were huge football rivals and other athletic rivals. And Memorial Stadium, which seats about 25,000, was built for the Baton Rouge High Estruma football game, and it was filled up every time they played. So I just wanted to tell you that there are still a lot of alumni groups. There are two distinct alumni groups that are very active in trying to get this school back. I want to thank Superintendent White. We've spoken many times over the past 6 months, and also Patrick Dobard on the potential of getting this school back. We are back in September. The East Baton Rouge Parish School Board finalized a draft MOU. Superintendent White, Patrick Dobard, and we've all know what it is, and we've all looked at it. In fact, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board approved this draft at our October meeting. And so we are excited about the prospects of having this signed. There's a few tweaks we'd like to do since it's been since September, since it was finished. We plan to have a dynamic, potentially middle-end high school there. We plan to have quite a few career and tech, jumpstart, certification opportunities for our students there. And of course, ExxonMobil has always been one of the biggest supporters of us and partners with us in Estruma. And they are ready, willing, and able to partner with us again on Estruma High School. So I just wanted to say that we're really excited about it. I also want to say that since in the last 4 months we have engaged an architect as we walked through the buildings. The RSD and Patrick gave us permission to go see the building. We had an architect with us, and they've looked at it. They've been working on this for 4 months. We actually were scheduled to bid out the renovations November 17th, but we didn't have the facility back. And the hope is that we could do it in December, and at this meeting we were going to have the opportunity to get that MOU and get it back. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the architect's recommendation is it's going to take at least $15 million to put that school back into a position where we can operate it as a dynamic high school. And that's a significant amount of money. Currently in East Baton Rouge Parish, we have a $30 million deficit. So where's the money coming from? Our summer monies that we were going to use this summer, $10.5 million, is what we're going to dedicate to that facility. So we can dedicate that much right now. But the point I'm trying to make here is that we are ready, willing, and able to get that school back. We have architects who have plans ready to go. We are looking to bid that out as soon as possible and open that school up next August for our kids. So thank you so much for the opportunity. We're excited about the possibilities here.
Thank you, Superintendent Drake. Dr. Mims?
Thank you.
Just a second. Yes.
I can wait and ask
No.
any questions or.
Go ahead.
Pleasure.
You interrupted
I didn't
me.
wanna make him sit down and then come back while you were here. So the plan would be to start in August of 2016.
Yes, but we got to realize when you put 10 to 15 million in a school, the time frame is
May or may not, but the plan
shrink.
would be,
Yes.
assuming you could get the facility in the position you wanted to be in, you think you would be able to open the door?
Yes, if we can, our architect said this week, if we can bid that no later than the end of this month, we can have it open in August.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll give a little background. If you'll bear with me 1 second, I just want board members to know, Ms. Hill and I don't vote the same on every item, but I think we have agreed that there could be better use for Struma along with working with Superintendent White and Superintendent Dobard. We all kind of said, this is a historic, great facility. We need something exciting to happen there, and that's really how this discussion started some 6 months ago.
Yes.
So I want to give everybody background here, and this didn't just show up today by accident. We've been working on that. So,
Yes.
And I appreciate the effort so far. There are capital issues at other RSD buildings, and these two items aren't directly related, but they're related. You just mentioned that there's $15 million in capital repairs that you think need to be done at Struma. I know one of the issues we've been discussing over the last few months are what are the items at the other buildings that need to be addressed and who's going to address them. Have y'all, I don't know where we stand on that conversation. Have we completed that?
I think you'd have to talk, I'd have to defer to Des Moines Rutledge, our counsel, on that. I think he's had those discussions. I'm not exactly sure where that is. But let me make this very clear. Struma High School has not been occupied for at least 2 years. It's sitting there and waiting there. And you're the ones who have the opportunity to return it to, hopefully, its glory. And that's what I'm thinking it will be.
I just want to know. I just know that we'll have other buildings that also seem to have other issues that need to be addressed. I know that was part of the discussion, not whether or not the Struma should go back. We've all agreed, let's get a plan in place to give the Struma back. We also wanted to discuss how do we make sure the other buildings where we do have school children are properly accounted for in terms of capital repair. I know y'all have been working on it. I just don't know where we stand on that process right now. And if it's appropriate for me to answer now, or if you want to wait,
Yeah, I don't want these issues. I don't think these issues should be or are tied together.
Well, let me ask you this then, and I appreciate that. When will we have an answer on the capital repairs?
We've collaboratively developed a policy statement that was largely shepherded by our program manager, who happens to also be the program manager for the RSD in Orleans. And so we thought that was a fair starting point where everybody would have confidence in this person. I believe now the department has had our draft of the statement or the policy guidance for several weeks now. So we're at a point where we're going to have to come at some agreement, if you will, on it. We met together agreed upon some high points, turned it over to our program manager, who actually went and eyeballed the facilities and sort of put some meat on the bones from there. We sort of massaged it internally, and we provided it to the department. We're well on our way, but it has been, in fairness to the superintendent, and in all of our discussions, and even one in which you were a participant and made some significant contributions, that we wanted to make certain that we kept them separate.
I want to keep them separate, but I need to know when I'm going to get an answer on the capital repairs. Okay, I need to know. There are other children sitting in other school buildings that aren't getting addressed capital repairs. Are we going to get a response to that, or are we not going to get a response to that? Are you saying the ball is in the court of the RSD? I'm asking the question.
We provided the guidance to the recovery school as our response for the guidepost, if you will, as to how.
Okay, and I've told you from the beginning I would keep them separate. I will continue to keep them separate. But I know you're frustrated with some things. I'm frustrated with some things that we met 4 months ago, 5 months ago, and we talked about the need for these repairs and these buildings and whose responsibility it was, and we haven't resolved it yet. I'm not going to blame you guys. I'm not going to blame our guys. We need it resolved, though. I think we can all agree to that, and so I'm trying to hope we can come out of this meeting with some understanding of, hey, by February 1 or January 1, that item should be decided. I don't know what the proper answer is. I'll ask Superintendent Dobart his opinion, but I'll keep them separate. I told you I would, and I will.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Ms. Bradford.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say, Superintendent Drake, is that we have generations of alumni from Estruma that seems to me when given the opportunity, they would be excited to help participate, maybe buy a room, or, this class has this room, or the hall, or whatever. Just some things to get them involved in helping with the cost and returning this school to the glory that it was in those days long ago.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Romer.
May I hear from Superintendent Dobart quickly as to what is the difference, where do we stand right now on these other issues?
Mr. Chair, committee members, Patrick Dobart, Superintendent of the Recovery School District. Well, we cover understand. Well, there are actually two things, Mr. Roman. Appreciate you bringing it up and starting these conversations several months ago. On the first, as far as just the definition of capital repairs, we are still in negotiation with EBR on that. I feel like we're close. About a week or so ago, we gave some more feedback to Mr. Rutledge, and we just anticipate that we'll meet and finalize that, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
We're not on two different planets on that issue.
What's that?
We're not on two different planets.
No, we're very close on that. But the second issue was around what you had asked for, the list of capital repairs to existing facilities now, and that was at the Capitol High School building, the roof, Glen Oaks, the HVAC system. And they did send out, I believe, a team to evaluate those, but we have yet to get anything back as far as, yes, they agree, this needs to be repaired, we will take care of this, this is the cost. And so that's what we've been holding and waiting for.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I will make and I know we have other speakers. Why don't you let the other speakers go?
Yes. We have Ms. Nims.
Thank you. I wanted
with the East Baton Rouge School Board.
I'm Dr. Jacqueline Mims. I represented District 4 on the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board from 1991 to 2004. And as of 14 days ago, I am again representing District 4 on the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. I live in 70805. I represented the Estruma District from 1991 to 2004. I remained active in supporting the district, even during the recovery school district days, supporting the band primarily, water, drinks, food, parade activities, and etc. More than anything else, living in 70805 for more than 34 years, we need a viable school, high school in our district. We need a viable middle school in our district. 70805 is a high poverty area. It's also been identified by some in the East Baton Rouge Parish as the highest crime rate in the city. I truly understand the connection between education and poverty. I'm a high school dropout and a teenage mother with a learning disability and 2 PhDs. I know the value of an education and what an education can do to change one's life. I'd love very much for you to consider supporting the MOU and allowing the East Baton Rouge Parish School System to reopen Ostroma High School. I've said to Superintendent Drake, even before he became superintendent and before I came back on the board, we're not opposed to a high school and a middle school combination there. What we need is a viable education program in 70805 that services middle schools and high schools. So I would ask for your support and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Nelson Smith? No? Okay, Ms. Lee?
Thank you. I am here to support the recommendation to return Ostroma High School back to the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. I was on the school board when they took the school, RSD took over the school. We turned the school over in great condition. We had just spent $3 million in that school for the top floor for a program that was in that school. I took a walk of that school too about 6 months ago. And Lord Jesus, it was horrible. Computers crashed, history destroyed in that school. And now the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board has to pick up the tab to get that school ready to educate children again. That's not fair to the taxpayers in this district, in this state, to have to pay money and they destroyed the school. When they take over the schools, when RSD took over the schools, they should return the schools the way they took them. And I appreciate the fact that you're giving the school back. $15 million is a lot of dollars, a lot of taxpayers' dollars. We could build a new school with that, but we choose to fix that school back because it's history for the community that went to that school. It's something about the alumni of Ostroma High School. Those people, I went to a church service a few months ago, and it was team spirit for Ostroma. We still had people there rallying behind Ostroma, and the school was closed or had been taken from us. So I appreciate the fact that you're returning to school, but the repair everything shouldn't be left on the backs of the East Baton Rouge Parish School System when you continue to award charter schools and you're taking all the money. It's just not fair. Thank you.
I appreciate those comments. It ought to be, I don't,
talk to me.
The capital repair definition is important because the law states that the district is supposed to take care of those things. The district is. So I'm not trying to be argumentative, but that's why it's important that we do resolve it, and we're going to get there. I was glad to hear that we're fairly close on the first item, so we're not in two different planets. We probably need to go through the list and get together. So, but I don't want us to believe that the RSD was responsible for what is deemed capital repairs. There are two different things between everyday little maintenance items and what is a major capital expense. And the law requires the district to take care of those things. That's why it's important. And so, again, I'm not trying to be argumentative.
No, we're not arguing.
I don't
We're
want to
talking.
just say that the RSD did not take care of certain things, that in fact, if we had to argue about it, we would argue that the district should have had done that. Instead of arguing about it, what we're suggesting is let's get together and figure out a solution. I think we're on the same page.
Yes.
Mr. Roma, I would agree. I wish we had clarified the definition of capital improvements early on, and perhaps we would not be having this discussion today. And I am also in agreement that I think that we can work together to resolve the issues.
I agree.
We can. And in regard to the alumni, just FYI, both of the two distinct alumni groups, the older group and the younger group, have been communicating over these years. They have never stopped their efforts to work towards some resolution with Ostroma High School. And there is no significant difference in terms of what they would like to see happen at that school.
I have a motion. I know there's speakers that want to speak. I have something, but I can either wait and let the speakers speak, or I can make a motion, whatever the chair is.
I would leave it up to you if you want to make a motion. We're gonna hear the speaker speak.
Well, let them finish.
Okay, Ms. Freiberg.
I needed clarification, Mr. Garvey.
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
you
Ms.
saw my
Beatty?
hand raised. I was trying to be professional. Mr. Romer, you made a comment, it's up to the school district. The question is, what was the condition when it was given, what was the condition of the facilities when it was handed over to RSD? Because I know of another situation, another school district, RSD returned the facility back to the school district, and it was in a state where millions of dollars would be needed to repair that facility to the state it was, or to the condition it was when it was turned over to RSD.
Sure. And look, I don't want to speak above my pay grade. I'm not an attorney, okay? But I believe the definition is important that we're talking about, because that does determine who is the responsible party for a particular item. And does anybody want to correct me on that? I'm glad to be corrected if I'm wrong.
Well,
so there's a nuance in the law that says certain items, and we're getting in the weeds here, but we got to get in the weeds, I suppose. Certain items, depending on how they're classified, become the responsibility of the district, while other items are the responsibility of the occupant. And, you know, we haven't really, between us, and I think we're cooperating now trying to come to that definition of what qualifies as what, but we need to qualify, because what the outcome is, we need to take care of the problems ultimately. Did I misstate any of that?
No, you didn't misstate it, Mr. Roman. I'll just say that, clearly, outside of New Orleans, where in New Orleans we are basically the steward of the facilities, and we have the majority of the schools, and we have clearly identified capital repairs definition. In Baton Rouge, and credit to Superintendent Drake and his team, we're working towards getting that definition. But in other parishes where we have had schools, unfortunately, there wasn't any definition. And so therefore, if a HVAC was leaking, maybe from 4 years ago, or even before the RSD came, the district could say, well, that's because you didn't do routine maintenance. But if you never have a definition, then you don't know if routine maintenance was not done properly, or if it did fall into capital repair. And so in order to move away from just kind of that dance, we look at it as, the district, it's the district's facility. Regardless if it's RSD or local, it's all our taxpayer dollars, and we should all just be good stewards, have very clear definitions and very clear rules, processes that will allow us to make certain that we take care of the buildings, operators or whoever's in it know what the rules are, the maintenance is done properly, and then when there's capital repairs, we take care of it. And so I think we're hopefully setting a template outside of New Orleans through the EBR work that we can, wherever we might have other existing buildings, follow that same model.
And it's in everybody's best interest. RSD,
yes.
East Baton Rouge, other places around the state, figure out how to do this. And I think so far we've worked well. I'm growing impatient. I know everybody else is growing impatient, so I appreciate everybody's time. I'll make a motion and then we'll go if we can. No, I changed my mind, didn't I? I said I was going to listen. I'm going to listen.
It would be in everybody's best interest that we conclude this. Ms. Freiberg, did we get a chance to hear from you yet?
Thank you, Mr. Garvey, and thank you, board members, for this opportunity to speak. There's a great sense of urgency with our school board and our school district about what happens to this school. We cannot do if you repair this, we'll repair that, because they're two separate items totally. We have community buy-in from North Baton Rouge and from people like Woody Jenkins, who is a graduate of Estruma, to get this school back up and get it going. But it is a sense of urgency, because we now have a $15 million price tag to stand the school back up. And I would argue a lot of it has been damage that was done during the charter school days, just to say that we put new window treatments in before the RSD took over, and they compromised all the windows by putting up the steel bars to keep people out. I understand that, but it compromised all our windows, so we have to redo that. There's a lot that's going to have to be done to stand the school up. I don't believe there's a board member or anyone in our district who wants to stand that school up with red tape involved. We do not want to say, okay, we're going to put the money in and we're going to hope that the state returns the school to us after this 5th year of being in the RSD, where we would manage the school. We have another project in the works at Ardendale. It's a career tech academy that will be a part-day school where schools all over our district will go. But if we can't work this thing out for Estruma, we're going to need to take the money that we had planned for Struma and put it in a facility at Ardendale, because right now we have some exciting plans for some tremendous career tech programs at Struma. But if we can't have them at Struma, which is just a few blocks from the community college, then we're going to have to take some other action. So it is critical and it is urgent, and it was disappointing to us as board members to see that today it was just for information purposes only, because we were led to believe in October, when our board agreed to the cooperative endeavor agreement, that you would make that decision at this meeting, so that if we are going to get a Struma back, we can go ahead and put the money in and get it rolling to stand the school back up. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Nelson Smith, Kenyatta Nelson Smith, Kwame Smith, and James Finney. Sorry, what? Okay. Okay, what about Bruce Miles, Justin Blanchard? Okay, Mr. Smith?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say, okay, my name is Kwame Smith, and right now I'm actually speaking in representation of Friends for Public Education here in Baton Rouge. I'm in support of the school going back to the local school board. Of course, you probably knew that was going to come out of my mouth. But what I seen today is a group of people that came in early this morning, and some of us are still sitting here today, that have gone through a grueling number of items today. Okay? So I commend everyone that's on the kiosk and everyone that's behind that came in today to do the hard work of serving our communities. I think this item, 3.1, consideration of a report, I wish it would say a consideration of a return regarding Struma High School, but either here nor there, I hope you all get there. I'm glad y'all close. That sounds great. The reason why I think those things are important, I think this item is very important, is because my knowledge that was given to me just recently about Struma was that it was a school a lot like one that I am close to in New Orleans that I graduated from, that when it was first started, I graduated from John F. Kennedy, and it's not there anymore. But when it was first started, it was majority, if not all white. And then somewhere, you know, it turned over to majority black demographics. And I think that's what happened to Struma here. And you have alumni from both generations who see that this should go back. And the reason why I think this is important is because of what we've experienced in the past of race superiority. What we're experiencing right now, economic superiority. And this whole issue of local control and taxation without representation. Heard a gentleman not too long ago come down and say he was kind of taken back about what he's seen, and taxpayers shouldn't see this in public. And I appreciate that comment, but I really believe he can't have his cake and eat it too. I support charters that are working well in New Orleans and anywhere else across the country for that matter. But what I do not support about those charters is what I support about your board. You're elected. What I support about our local board, they're elected. But what I do not support about charters is the non-elected boards. If we can get somewhere where we can get away from what history has done to us, and why we're seeing this, and I will wrap this up, why we're seeing what we see today, charters that are being allowed to go forward when people oppose it, and charters that are not being allowed to go forward when people are for it. because people want to be treated fairly. And it's not happening, and it hasn't happened historically, and history has shown that we have to go sometimes and look at some of these laws. I heard you, Mr. Garvey, talk about, and even Mr. Chaz talk about laws and to the word of the law. Sometimes those laws are unjust and wrong, and they need to be changed. I'm going to end it there and just simply say, I'm glad I came here today. I'm glad I had a chance to speak. And I hope we can get back to more democratic taxation with representation policies. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Miles?
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Bruce Miles, board chair of Friendship Charter Schools, which operates Capitol High School. And in addition to that, an alumni and longtime supporter of Capitol High School. And I come here today to speak in terms of, I've seen that school go through a great transformation over the past 10 years. And I've seen it go from the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board through the RSD, through 2 charter groups. But the one common denominator remains the same, and that is the facilities. The facilities did not just get like that under the charter groups. That has been an ongoing challenge of this particular school. And the thing that I guess I find it hard to understand, how we have a high school that's relative to a Struma High School is maybe 3 blocks away. And we're about to spend $15 million to upgrade one school when there's another school, once again, prominent community high school, that's struggling from a standpoint of facilities. I just find it hard to believe, because I think that we should all be in the business of educating our children. And it's very difficult to educate children when your facilities are substandard, because we're all about our children. I heard earlier we talked about innovation and how charter schools are designed to be innovative. Well, relative to education, my definition of innovation is very simple. It's educating our children.
Thank you. My name is Justin Blanchard. I serve as the Director of Community Relations for Friendship Louisiana. And I think I can speak for myself and our board chair when I say, we're not here to be in the middle of anything, but, we're simply seeking what's right for all of the children of North Baton Rouge, including the 400 plus that we serve at our school. I totally understand that some may feel that these are 2 separate issues, but I think you'd be remiss to ignore the potential inequities that may be caused when you have a continued lack of attention to capital facilities at the school that currently operates with 400 plus students, whose parents are taxpayers just like everyone else sitting in this room. How many future chemists, engineers, or biologists are we holding back simply because there's a leak in the lab and no one wants to be accountable for fixing it? So, an investment into the facility is an investment into our scholars and into our community. In Friendship, we made a commitment to our families and to our communities to create an excellent high school in North Baton Rouge, and we intend on doing that regardless of the circumstances. However, I do think it's important that we don't add or allow undue obstacles to linger during the process. And there were two documents that I submitted. I'm not sure if you have them in front, but so, and one of them, and I just submitted these to highlight the need. So one of them is from, both of these are from the roofing company that was contracted by the district to come out and survey and assess the roof. And if you turn your attention to the last paragraph in the first letter, I quote, it says, "Due to the condition of this roof, we believe a re-roof is necessary." I don't know how much more straightforward you can be than that. And the other is just an overview of some of the patchwork that has been done at multiple junctures, at multiple times during the school year, in multiple buildings. So if you look at this, if you look at the document, you may only see the total in this particular patch, in this particular fix is $1,000, but we had to do that to multiple buildings. If you look at the little map, we have 11 buildings in our school. So we've had to do that at multiple junctures in the school year and at multiple buildings. So, I mean, that's it. I just submitted that to highlight the need.
Okay, thanks. I think we all got a copy of that, so we can review it Mr. Byron Sharper? He's gone? Okay. That concludes the speakers on this item. I believe we have a motion on the floor, but Mr. Romer is looking to offer a substitute motion.
Yeah, and I may have to stumble through it a bit. I don't have anything written down. But I'll summarize again. You know, in our attempt to take over failing schools, we sometimes have been successful, we sometimes have not. I'm sorry. And in this particular case, I think it's clear that what's happening at Struma is not what any of us envisioned or wanted for that school. And so we want to make sure we address that. I trust the new superintendent in that he has certainly some ideas and some thoughts in mind to make it what we would like it to be, and that he can hopefully get that done in a relatively quick period of time. So I want to support that effort. So one thing as a board, so I think I have two motions actually. I think as a board, the way we return schools is our board has to ultimately approve the returning of a school. We don't have the final terms. Even Superintendent Drake mentioned that there needs to be some modifications to the document that was written up in September. So even if we wanted to, he's already mentioned we've got to make some changes. However, for the sake of time, I would like to make a motion to empower the superintendent, our state superintendent, to work with East Baton Rouge and their superintendent on trying to resolve any remaining differences in that, I guess it's an MOU or document for the return of Struma. And if in fact they can finalize any differences, empower the superintendent to enact that initiative without our vote. In other words, we give him the power to finalize that with Superintendent Drake.
Yeah. Mr. Romer, we can, the only change that would be necessary is that in our original MOU, it was said 9 through 12 school. Would you strike to amend that to a 6 through 12? That's the only change.
Well, I want to make sure we have adequate time to look at it. I want to make sure the superintendent has had his full opportunity to review and agree. And rather than us having to meet again to approve it, I'm saying we will give him the authority to approve it based on his final negotiation with you on that document. And I would put it back on the calendar, not for our approval, but to make sure that in fact it's getting done. That if it's not done, it's on our agenda again in January, and we're going to find out why it's not done. So that's my motion now, is to give the authority to the superintendent to finish negotiations regarding the return of Struma to East Baton Rouge Parish. If that negotiation cannot be completed by a January meeting, the item should be referred back to this committee.
Super. I have a.
Could I suggest that it be referred, that we receive a report on this either way?
Sure, that's fine.
So I have a question just to make sure.
Did we get a second on the motion?
Yeah.
Ms. Bradford. Okay, Ms. Hill?
So Mr. Roman, just to make sure I'm clear, because you and I will not be here in January. So you're giving the permission for John White, without coming to the board, to approve to return the school to East Baton Rouge Parish. Is that clear?
No, correct. Given his satisfaction. I mean, he may need to correct me on the way this works.
I think probably what this is to approve the memorandum of understanding to allow East Baton Rouge Parish to operate. Warren, is that right?
Yes.
To operate the school.
Right.
Okay. For the 2000, commencing immediately.
Yeah, we would like to commence immediately with bidding it out.
So yeah, so we can substitute that language as appropriate. If we need to review it for tomorrow's board meeting, we can, that language. But that's what I would like to do.
This MOU, if I may speak, this MOU was approved by our board at the October board meeting. And it was vetted by both sides, so everybody knew what was in there. The only change we want to make is 6 through 12 versus 9 through 12.
Okay, does staff have a second? I don't know if I had a second or not.
Yeah, Ms. Bradford seconded.
Okay, I'm sorry. You were too close to me.
Does the staff have that motion captured?
Not really sure. I have allowed
Mr. Roman, does that sound like what you were looking for?
And I say yes, and I'm deferring to the superintendent, state superintendent, to make sure that language works for him.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll have a second motion having to deal with capital repairs.
After this, okay. And Ms. Bradford, you're second on this motion? Okay. Do we have any questions or objections?
Mr. Garland, Mr. Rutledge, you want to make a statement?
Ms. Hill, I'm sorry.
I don't know if we had a comment from.
My only question, Mr. Romer, was at the end of the day, the motion authorizes the superintendent to execute the cooperative endeavor agreement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Am I
Because it's
saying that, John?
No.
Okay.
Otherwise, we would have to vote on it.
Sure, I understand. Because it's not a one-year proposition. We're not going to invest that kind of money.
No, it's not a one-year proposition.
Well, let's hold it just 1 second. I don't know, Des Moines, if that's accurate. I understand what Barbara said earlier about, not wanting to get it back and then having to turn it back again. But you can't delegate your authority to vote on a return of schools. That's in the statute. And we'd really need a different opinion. I think what you have is a CEA regarding the operations of the school that doesn't have to do with governance.
Well,
now subsequently, obviously the board, if you're up and operational, would be foolish to take it back. But I think those are two totally separate operations legally.
Well, actually, the cooperative endeavor agreement does speak to governance and jurisdiction, and in fact, you agree in the cooperative endeavor agreement to recommend that the school be returned to the jurisdiction.
That's a very different thing from a board speaking on it that doesn't even exist yet. The board that will be voting on the return of that school is not even in office yet. So we can't. You can commit in the CEA to terms that commit the superintendent to recommending it,
right.
But you can't commit a board that has yet to meet.
Right.
I have a suggestion,
Ms.
Mr.
Hill?
Roman. Maybe the changes that y'all need to make in regards to what Superintendent Drake said, that there were some minor changes in the agreement that you guys currently have. Is it possible that that you all, the state superintendent, can get together and maybe by tomorrow make the necessary changes?
Yes.
And then this board can vote on it? I just want to, because I know you said there were some changes in the contract, in the agreement, in the MOU, that needed to be, and you said there was one, I think was the grade.
The grade configuration, yes.
Yeah. So, Superintendent, is that possible, since there was just that one change, that you all can just get together and look at it and bring it back to the full board for a full vote on tomorrow? Since it's already been in discussion.
I think we're talking about two different things. And I think there's a technical issue the superintendent has brought up that may or may not be addressed in the cooperative agreement. And I'm trying my best to get this resolved.
The cooperative agreement says, the law says that the BESE, that the state will own the school for 5 years. Currently, we're in the 4th year. Next year, the first year we would operate the school would be the last year of the 5th year that technically the state would own the school. However, the cooperative endeavor agreement says that at the end of that 5th year, which would be the end of the 5-year period that BESE technically owns the school, that the board would recommend its return to East Baton Rouge Parish.
Could it be subject to the normal rules regarding accountability?
Oh, yeah. Here's what I would.
You understand what I'm saying? For instance, if we chartered that school, that charter applicant would be subject to our charter school accountability.
Yeah.
Could the cooperative endeavor work the same way?
Absolutely. It would be given a site code. It's a school. There's just a question of the governance of the school is a different thing from the operations of the school. And what we are considering is a CEA that binds us to allowing them to operate the school. And as Des Moines said, I believe in the CEA is pending the successful completion of that process, an obligation on the part of the superintendent to recommend the transferring of governance to the board when that decision comes up under the law. I would not, Ms. Hill, although I understand totally where you're going, I think this is so complicated. It's almost 5. The lawyers really need to sit down, Counselor, and finalize this. I'm not going to feel comfortable bringing this tomorrow. And I do think that in approving this motion, you've gone as a board quite far to demonstrate to Superintendent Drake, to Mr. Rutledge, and to the board that you're interested in me getting this done, and Superintendent Dobart and I will do so.
So I have a question, Chair. Can you foresee, Superintendent, any reason that would derail this process?
Yeah.
Because if we are, I understand the concerns, they're ready to invest money in a building that they want to have and run. Is there something that you can foresee that would hijack that?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I agree with the superintendent. I don't think you're ready to do this tomorrow.
No,
I think we need a little bit more time.
No, I just want to feel, for them to feel comfortable going
I'm
ahead.
just trying to,
I understand you're
I'm
trying
trying to
to-
create a sense of urgency to try to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't know any other way to do it. I think what I've outlined could possibly be a window that we can all get through and resolve it. That's what I want us to try to do. And if we don't, we're gonna get a report in January, the new board will get a report in January that says this is where we stand and why we stand here. And hopefully it's a good report.
Hopefully, if this is what we've done.
Well, ask for a report.
I don't know any other way to do it. Is there? I'll call.
We hope we're under construction when you get your report in January.
Well, maybe y'all reach agreement in the next 15 days. I mean, that's what I hope, and I'm empowering him to enter such an agreement that gives you the comfort to move forward. But you may not reach an agreement. I don't know any other way for this board to recommend to both parties that you get together and finish resolving the issues that exist. I don't know any other way. And I separated it. I told you I would separate the two items. I separated it. I'm going to talk about the second item in just a second.
Okay. One more thing.
Ms. Bradford.
Okay, I would be remiss if I did not say this. When we're talking about adding the 6 through 8 into a 9 through 12, I want to be sure that that 6 through 8 is segregated at lunchtime, recesses, and I know that if you give me your word that that will happen, but as that educator, I want to ask that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That building is built for 1,350 students. There's plenty of space.
Mr. Gorby.
Okay.
Chairman.
Ms. Smith.
Okay, I'll be quick. Is there a possibility if we're meeting with Board of Regents on the 10th of December that something could happen, maybe at that meeting prior or following that meeting?
Should be.
That might be the answer to it then.
I don't want to bind us to that. I mean, if that's done, that's great, but I'm trying to give them the authority to finish it without us.
Are you trying to skip out of that meeting on the 10th?
No, I'm trying to tell them, y'all need to get together and finish the details.
Mr. Chair, can we have a vote, please?
Yeah, I think we have a motion on the floor, and we have a second, and we've discussed it. If things don't work out according to the motion in the next few days, we could always schedule a meeting just prior to or minutes after the Board of Regents meeting to address problems that may come up between now and then. So we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Do we have any objections to the motion? Okay, hearing none, that motion carries. Mr. Romer, you have a...
Second motion, and this, you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to try to phrase it in a similar manner. It basically is urging everybody to get together and try to resolve whatever differences exist on the capital issue. I mean, there is a point to be made here, and I appreciate the $15 million potential investment in Estruma, and the community appreciates it, I guarantee you. But there are other schools both nearby and far in this district that have similar issues, and we need to address them, try to address them. And so I'm going to make a second motion that urges the state superintendent to, and along with Superintendent Dobart, to work with East Baton Rouge on finalizing the definition of capital repair in regard to the RSD school facilities, and enter into an agreement if such an agreement is required in order to address that. And if it's not again addressed, that item too shall come back to us, or actually that item shall be reported back to us through this board in January.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gio. Do we have any questions on the motion by the BESE members? Hearing none. Do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, that motion carries. Next item.
Mr. Garvey, I'm sorry.
Ms. Hill?
Superintendent White, I know you were going to, you at EBR and of course the department will meet to come up with an agreement with the Stroma. Do you think by the Board of Regent meeting December 10th, I believe it is, December 10th? Okay, so we should have a report, or maybe if the school going to be returned. I just want to just make sure, because I don't want the school district to start investing money into a building, and you think that's possible?
Yeah, I will reach out to Superintendent Drake. We'll schedule a meeting. I'll do it tomorrow. We'll schedule a meeting. We'll try to get it done end of week.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, please.
Your next item is on page 71, item 4.1, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 126 Charter Schools, section 2301, 2713, and 2801 only. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent. A new exec rec and backup have been distributed.
So moved.
Mr. Gio, we have a second from Ms. Moranti. Do we have any questions by BESE members? Do we have a?
Give me a minute.
We do.
Let's go.
That's fine. Okay, Ms. Sandra Ewell and Donald Chopin. Okay, I think that they have left. Okay, Elizabeth Jeffers, Kwame Smith, and Sandra Vanderdrift. I see that. Okay, who's left? Hello. State your name, please, and who you're with.
Hi, BESE, or the board. I'm Sarah Vandergriff on behalf of the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools. And I'm here to say that we support these changes, and I also want to recommend the Department of Ed staff as well as BESE for not only implementing these policies, but when the law dictates to BESE to implement policies but doesn't give much, leadway as to what to include in those policies. The Department of Ed has worked really hard with many different stakeholders to vet the different proposals before setting in stone what they would recommend as final policy. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of the Charter School Association for the Department of Ed working closely with all stakeholders to get interest and input before coming up with policies. And these policies we think are very clear, very transparent, and they continue the strong tradition that BESE has set in terms of creating clear and transparent and strong accountability standards for schools. So thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other speakers on this item? Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have any other questions from BESE members? Hearing none, do we have any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 89, item 4.2, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 129, the Recovery School District, and consideration of the 2016-2017 contract template for Type 3B charter schools. The department recommendation is to approve Bulletin 129 revisions as notice of intent and issue a declaration of emergency effective December 2nd, 2015, for a period of 120 days from adoption or until finally adopted as rule, and to receive the 2016-2017 contract template for Type 3B charter schools.
We have a motion. We have a second by Ms. Bradford. Do we have any questions by BESE members?
Is this item 4.2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I do need some clarification. So this is dealing with RSD schools, failed schools, the return of schools to the local school board. So I know that in one portion, it says that you could return to the former local school board with proposed stipulations and conditions for return. So does this still mean that in order for the school to return to the previous local district, I guess I should say, local school board, is the return contingent upon the charter board's approval?
Yes, that's what the BESE policy says.
So what changed here? Because that has been policy.
There's just a requirement annually that the policy and process be approved.
So it's an annual?
Yes, ma'am.
And any other questions? Okay, we have some speakers. Ms. Barrios, Ben Bourgeois. We have Sandra Yule, looks like she has left, and Kwame Smith has left, we believe. Okay, we have passed Ben Bourgeois. Is he passing also? No indication. Okay, we will assume that he passed. Do we have any other questions from BESE members? Hearing none, do we have any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 147, item 4.3, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 134, tuition donation rebate program to align policy with legislation from the 2014 regular legislative session. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent.
I so move.
Mr. Guerrero moves, the second by Ms. Bradford. Do we have any questions from BESE members?
Members, these are technical edits to conform with statute in ways that we believe the current regulations have not aligned with the statutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Any questions? We have some speakers. Kelly Botker. That's big wave, okay. Danny Willis. Another wave. Arthur Dupree. Another wave. Okay. Thank you. Saving us time. Do we have any questions going back to the BESE members? Any questions? Seeing none, do we have any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
Your next item is on page 149, item 4.4, consideration of revisions to Bulletin 133, scholarship programs for school participation and enrollment decisions relative to the assessment transition policy. The department recommendation is to approve as notice of intent and issue a declaration of emergency effective December 2nd, 2015 for a period of 120 days from adoption or until finally adopted as rule.
Okay, Mr. Guillo, seconded by Ms. Moranti. Do we have any questions from BESE members?
Members, this policy is a policy to set the bar in a time of transition for failing for a scholarship school as the same line as it is in a public school.
We have speakers? Oh, okay. Let's see if we can do this again. Mr. Dupree? No, okay, Ms. Botker. Big wave. Okay. Michelle DeMont Linares. Okay. Stacy Martin. Okay. Lee Barrios.
Barrios, retired teacher, St. Tammany. You can correct me if I'm misunderstanding or wrong on this in any way, but I'm always wary of waivers. I think if it's a good policy, there shouldn't be a need for consistent waivers, and this seems to provide for a waiver at any time in advance for the possibility of waivers. I also always question anytime, particularly with this administration, that superintendent is given complete control of, in this case, giving those waivers. So those are the questions I have. I also wanted to, this is the last agenda item, this is the last meeting of the year and of this BESE. I wanted to give a shout out to the 4 BESE members who we're losing, Miss Beebe, Miss Hill, Miss Smith, and unfortunately Miss Harris, who isn't here. They did an extraordinary job in trying to keep this a democratic process and trying to listen to the voice of the public. It's unfortunate that in the elections there was some dirty politics that were carried out, and I hope that some of those are addressed through a new ethics administration and through a new administration with the governor and legislature, and that there's more cooperation with the new BESE board. I know we have some new BESE members that probably never been to a BESE meeting before in their lives. But I wanted to give a shout out and thank you on behalf of a lot of people who couldn't be here today to those 4 BESE members that are going to be leaving. And look forward to moving forward with the new administration. And I also wanted to, I know Ms. Lottie said at the beginning of the year she wanted to start the year off with in a positive way. So I'd like to end it in a positive way by once again asking for Mr. White's resignation. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions about this item from BESE members? Hearing none, do we have any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Next item.
That, sir, concludes your agenda.
Thank you.
I've got one more thing.
Oh, I don't think so. No.